your neighbors and some maybe people further afield while we conferred with legal counsel. And as the agenda states, we're on to new business. I gather that most of the assemblage here is aware that the Black Oak Wind Farm has notified the board that they are going back to Plan 1 and moving off of Plan 2 and requesting that the town board move towards deciding whether or not to issue a wind turbine permit. There are several steps that the board has to do to determine the issuance of the wind energy permit, and at least it's required 5 plans, and they're listed on the agenda. And so I move that let me find my resolutions. What resolution number would be first, Alice?
59.
59? 2016-59. I move that whereas a predecessor in interest of Black Oak Wind Farm LLC, the project sponsor, filed a site plan application with the town board of the town of Enfield, the town board pursuant to the town of Enfield Wind Energy Facilities Law Number 1 of 2009 for the development of a 7-turbine wind-powered generating facility, the project. And whereas on June 9, 2010, the town board passed a resolution accepting its role as lead agency pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and its implementing regulations at 6 NYCRR Part 617, collectively referred to as seeker. And whereas after preparation of both draft and final environmental impact statements on December 14, 2015, the board issued a finding statement for the project pursuant to seeker, and whereas the project is choosing to withdraw their supplemental EIS from consideration by the town and plan to proceed with final permits for the original layout, which was approved January of 2015, and the seeker was, that's additional language, was amended in July 15, and whereas they clearly stated in their supplemental EIS they never gave up the right to build the original layout when they proposed changes to it. And whereas the original finding statements and the Town of Enfield Wind Energy Facilities local law are the guidebook for has to be performed to comply with their permit conditions, now therefore be it resolved that the Black Oak Wind Farm decommissioning plan be approved. Could I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we are now open to board discussion. And I believe the project leader, Marguerite Wells, is available for discussion with the board on this matter. Is that correct? So, discussion on this resolution?
The first question I would ask is the 4th paragraph says plan to proceed with final permits for the original layout. Is it in fact true that nothing has been changed at all from the original layout? All the turbines are exactly the same place. All the transmission lines are in exactly the same place. The substations in exactly the same place. Can we get a letter from Black Oak Wind Farm stipulating that and signed by whoever is legally responsible for that, so we know that that's the plan that they're proceeding with?
Is that doable?
And a question to me, yes, it's certainly doable.
So nothing's been moved. The substation's still in the original location. All the transmission lines are still in the original locations. Okay. Would you send a letter to the board stating that? That'd be good. Second question you want?
Yeah?
There's nothing in here that gives costs for repairing the road after decommissioning has taken place. They mention it, but they don't have a dollar amount connected with it.
We still have $100,000 in escrow.
And where is that in the decommissioning plan?
That's in the resolution passed 2 weeks ago.
Where is that in this decommissioning plan?
I don't know what it is.
It's not, it is in here?
I don't know that it is.
Well, why wouldn't it be in here? Isn't this the decommissioning plan?
No. I believe that the language mentioning the amount of money is in that plan in front of you.
Last paragraph, in addition, all town, county, and state roads impacted by project decommissioning activity, if any, will be restored to original condition upon completion of decommissioning. Funds for road repair after decommissioning will be included in the total amount of the decommissioning bond or other financial instrument held by the town.
So we don't need a dollar amount for that?
On the first page, it says 100,000 for,
Correct. 100,000 for assuring road repair.
Does that apply to
Oh,
the
down.
road repair after they've been done specifically?
Decommissioning, it says.
yeah, during
Okay.
decommissioning.
That's in
The first page, the middle of the last paragraph.
the last paragraph. Basis for the removal of non-substitute turbines and subject.
Oh, road repair.
Good, great. My next question is, why are we voting on this today when we've made an understanding in meetings in the past that we were going to take at least one meeting to talk about things before we voted on them, and so the public would have a chance to look at them for a month in term, you know, we just got these Friday, lots of information. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody on the board about them. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody that we might decide we want to talk to in terms of expertise. I really don't understand why we should vote on these today. It doesn't make any sense to me, especially in keeping with our policies in the past, when we've decided that we don't want to vote on something the first time we look at it. We want to give time to think about it, digest it, have public have time to input into it, because they've seen it for, what, 2 days now? That just doesn't seem at all in keeping with our policies.
I recall looking at this in previous meetings,
This
discussing it.
plan? This specific one?
These numbers,
This specific plan?
I believe this plan is the result of the discussions we had on the previous ones, isn't it?
And it was just sent to us last Friday, right?
No, we've had basically this information.
We've had this plan longer than last Friday.
Let me finish my sentence. This board has had basically this information for at least 2 months. Basically this information. A couple of changes in sentence order have been made, and differences have been made in amounts in response to board wishes.
Which leads me right back to saying, this is a new plan. We haven't had it longer ago than last Friday. This is supposed to be a complete plan. The last one we voted on was supposed to be a partial plan. Everyone said it was partial, wasn't everything. We didn't need to worry about it because the final plan will have all that stuff that we need to figure out. And now, in 5 days, we've had to look at this. The town people haven't had a chance to look at it for more than a day or two. I don't know how long they've had it. And we haven't talked about it at all. And now you're saying, well, let's just vote on it. Against our policy of saying that we're not going to vote on things first time through. We're going to wait until at least the meeting is passed. This, to me, it just seems to me that you just conveniently forget all these things. Talk about what our procedures are, how we're going to go about doing this, and say, well, let's just do it the way whatever happens, or whatever. I think it's really, it's completely out of line with
I do
procedures.
feel that the board has basically had all of this information for months, or for a couple of months.
And that is not the same thing as the exact wording of a piece of paper. When you vote on a piece of paper that has specific words in specific orders saying specific things, that's what you're voting on. You're not voting on something that we talked about in general or that was in a different order some other time in the past. Rob, or Marcus, or whoever it was said in every word matters. It's you can't just vote on stuff and say, well, that looks pretty good, that looks pretty close. That's what we did for years and years with this whole wind farm thing. We said, yeah, they're telling us the truth. Every time we got an information from them, they're telling us the truth. We don't even have to read this stuff. We can just go ahead and vote on it, yes, which is what we did.
So you
That's-
would like me to withdraw this motion?
I
But you have,
Out.
You out.
the board is discussing this. It is not a group process with the audience.
We're not the audience, we're the citizens.
That's right.
So, have we discussed this as a board enough?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, then let's continue the discussion.
Okay, let's read the whole plan and discuss each part of it and make sure that we understand exactly what's going on and what we're talking about, that nobody has any problems with it, nobody has any questions to ask about it.
Or should we wait till next month till everybody's had time to look at it?
All I'm saying is that we haven't done what we said we were going to do. And we are not on a pathway right now to do what we said we're gonna do. What I'm seeing is that we've got this motion in front of us to vote yes on this thing. When I just saw it I didn't pick up my email
Okay.
till yesterday.
So, is going through it by paragraph what you really want, or time to digest it by yourself?
Both,
You want both?
definitely both, yes.
You want both?
And I want it with every one of these
Okay.
submittals that we have.
So,
to look
in the
at.
interest of time management, I would say we would do the first 3 paragraphs tonight, paragraph by paragraph, and we'll put the rest of it off to a special meeting.
Can I offer my concerns is that our accounts for this project are tens of thousands of dollars, as far as I'm aware of, in a negative. I don't see why we've heard at the last meeting that supposedly there were comments being made that there was no more money left. I don't see why we are working on this any further until those accounts are caught up.
Did you
Propose a
hear-
resolution.
Did you hear the concern, Marguerite?
I did.
Would you speak to that?
Can you answer that?
There would be 2 responses. As I said at the last meeting, for one thing, the financing of the project is predicated on getting through this process and having a permit, at which point all the funds will be released. I'm not in charge of that. It is the people whose dollars it is that would repay the town, and that can't be done right now until we actually have a permit to build the project. Second, there were charges assessed against us that were not due us. We were not due to pay everything that the town said we should pay. So until our accounts are trued up, I'm not gonna write blanket checks for things that we are not supposed to pay.
One thing you also said last week, Marguerite, was that if we passed, or last month, if we passed that preliminary decommissioning plan, that would help you to free up the money to be able to pay your
It
debts.
has.
You did say that.
And it did help.
And it absolutely has. It would help. It is not the only ingredient we need.
But it's not
We've
just a
made
few
great
$1,000s.
progress.
This
Right.
is tens of thousands of dollars, and this is a small town. It doesn't have a large tax base.
Understood, but until the books are trued up, we are,
But that's not our problem.
Oh, yes, it is our problem,
It's our
Michael.
problem that there is a negative.
Michael,
It's
it
not-
is our
it-
problem,
it's-
Michael.
It's Black Oak. I mean.
Well, Marguerite's
under our law-
saying she's been billed for
Yes.
things she shouldn't have been billed for.
That's
Okay.
our problem.
But, yeah, we have to sort that out, but
Yes.
that needs to be sorted out.
Yes.
But the accounts are still in tens of thousands of dollars in a negative.
Yes, I'm quite sure it'll still be in the negative.
What is the
So-
number anyway?
So why are we working on this until they're trued out? Until we have that
Because
straightened
it's
out?
the business before the board?
Business. Good word.
But we're gonna spend even more time and even more money and be even more in debt. I mean, that's that's not fiscally responsible.
Can I ask a question?
And, putting this off, we need to true up our accounts, and also give the public more time to review these documents, as well as us. We need more time to review the documents as well. And discuss them.
Any other discussion?
Well, I mean, I see on August 16th, I just was remembering the part of the resolution that we passed regarding the principles or the idea of decommissioning, and then seeing it rephrased or pretty much verbatim here, and then in something that was written on 9/9/16. So I'm confused about, we've never seen it before.
Well, I think that's my earlier statement that most of the substance in here, the board has seen.
And certainly the costs and so on are all very well detailed, and how much has to be. This is perhaps a bit clearer.
Do you want to go over any paragraphs?
I'm happy to, yes, if that's appropriate.
We'll do
I'm
three.
happy to read the whole thing.
We'll do 3 paragraphs. Want to read, Mike?
Anticipated life of wind turbines. Megawatt scale wind turbine generators available on the market today have a life expectancy of more than 20 years. The tubular steel towers supporting the generators have a simple, rugged design, and with basic routine maintenance will serve many years beyond the life expectancy of the generators. As the turbines to be installed for the Black Oak Wind Farm, the project, approach the end of their serviceable life, technological advances should make available more efficient and cost-effective generators that will economically drive the replacement of the existing generators and thus prolong the economic life of the project. In the event that this doesn't happen and the turbines need to be decommissioned, the following plan provides a description of the decommissioning work and the estimated costs associated to perform it.
What else, how differently would you like this to be?
Well, the first thing that comes up in my mind is I guess I don't really have a clear sense of what our wind law says in relation to just changing out the generators on the towers. I mean, they're making it pretty clear that at some point they may just decide to put new generators on top of these towers rather than take the whole thing down and do it again. Does that have any relation to decommissioning? Do we need any decommissioning agreements made in relation to that? Does our wind law even deal with that? Do they have the right to just change them whenever they want to whatever they want to be? Or do we have any say or any control over that process, you know, depending on whether they put a wind generator on that generator on that may be very different, should be different probably. Do we get to go back through our law and say, does it comply with all these areas again, or do they have to do a secret process again? That would be the first thing I would want to understand, and I would probably have to go back and read the wind law in relation to that to understand, well, exactly how that works, so.
Okay. So that's what you feel needs to be done, not necessarily rewording. You, at least, of the board, has to go back and compare
me-
this with the wind law.
To me, when I read paperwork that's being submitted by somebody that wants my approval, I'm gonna read that paperwork with the idea to it that everything that it's saying is relevant to my job as a town board member. If the first thing that I see says, wait a minute, they're bringing up a whole other thing that I didn't even think about, then that's the first step that I wanna take, is say, okay, maybe there's something completely missing from the decommissioning plan that I didn't even think about. I would want to think about. So, yes, there may be changes I want to make, but it may actually send me as a town board member in an entirely different direction in terms of how I want to approach the issue of a decommissioning plan. So maybe, depending on what comes up, this may be great, or it may be completely irrelevant to, or need significant changes in order to get inclusion of all those other aspects of it that I wasn't thinking about.
Can you do that within 2 weeks?
I'm happy to do it as quickly as I can and figure it out, but that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily gonna have all the answers, though. I may read our wind law, which is very ambiguous, and say, I don't really know if it applies to this or not, and then have to go to our lawyer or to Harris Beach or somebody to say, how do we deal with that? You know, what's our responsibility in relation to that? At this point, because we've been so much through with so many people involved with this, we have a lot of people that it's a real difficult emotional, financial issue for. I don't think we have the luxury anymore of not paying attention to the details. I think we have to pay attention to every detail that comes along, and I think we have to deal with it to the degree that we feel, first of all, that we're doing our job as a town board member in terms of serving the town, and second of all, that we're doing our job as a town board member in terms of protecting the town from lawsuits in the future, whether it be from Black Oak Wind Farm or from the residents. We're really in a difficult spot right now, and I think it really behooves us to pay really good attention to what we're doing and how we're doing it from now on. And whether I can do something in 2 weeks, I don't know. I don't know if I can solve it in 2 weeks or not. I'll try.
I do not disagree with you on your statements that this is complex, and we have to have several considerations here. But there has to be some outline here of how we're getting through this process that is before us.
Definitely.
Okay.
And I will work in the next 2 weeks to
So the way I think I remember this, you have to compare this to the what our local wind farm law says.
I think so, yeah.
All right. You want to go on to the second paragraph?
Estimated cost of decommissioning. Research in the U.S. is lacking to support actual decommissioning costs of wind farms, since little decommissioning has been performed due to the recent development of the wind industry. Estimates have been prepared by a range of sources, with numbers between 40,000 and 170,000 per turbine proposed, based on estimates of labor, materials, and scrap value. And then it has some references to that. Published research from Sweden in 2014 looked at actual decommissioning costs of 2 wind projects. One project cost $21,141 per turbine to remove only the turbines themselves. The other project removed all foundations, roads, crane pads, and cables, and cost $63,000 per turbine to perform. Giovanni, 2014. No other published research is available to the applicant's knowledge. I guess I would stop there for a minute and say, after spending a lot of time with some of the original environmental impact statements, the draft environmental impact statements that came from the applicant, I have to take that last statement with a grain of salt, because in a number of instances they said pretty clearly or pretty obviously that this scientific or this answer or this direction or these set of facts was the correct set of facts, when it was actually one set of facts, but there was significant range of set of facts in dealing with those things from other sources that were very different from those facts that they presented to us, and that they didn't reference at all having any likelihood of being true at all. I understand that they were in a position of trying to support their project and trying to put it forward. At the same time, it seemed to me that the language in that original DEIS was geared toward making someone believe that this was what the truth was. And so anytime that someone says to me, no other published research is available to the applicant's knowledge, that may be true, but they may not have looked very far. And so to me, if we hadn't already decided on this dollar number, which we did at the last meeting, which I said no to, because I didn't think we were ready to do that, then I would have said, well, let's go ahead and find out if there is other published research, and I think Michael already did some of that as well in what he was doing. So I'm going to have to trust that what his information came to is a valid one, and I think the numbers that he came up with were pretty good. At the same time, when I see a statement like that, it makes me doubt the validity of anything else that's in a paper that's written by the person that makes that statement. So it's very questionable to me.
But you want time to compare it to what Michael put forth a month ago?
I would say that I came up with numbers based on the information I was able to research, but I'm not a qualified engineer. If we were bringing a final document, I would definitely want that verified.
So you want it to verified by,
By someone that's qualified to do it.
okay.
Of course, this does say we can review and alter the amount.
We can. So, I mean, it was a rough number that I came up with based on, I thought it was pretty good, but I would definitely want that verified.
What was that number?
I had 180 per turbine,
Which is what the plan says?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And it may well be great. At the same time,
Yeah,
I understand what Michael's saying. If I were to go build somebody's house and I told them it's gonna be about $100,000, I'll tell you later how much it's gonna cost you. It wouldn't fly. It just is not.
But the
it's
180
not
is
way
the
to do
number
it.
that you came up with, right?
That's the number I came up with, but like I said, I'll qualify that, I'm not, I mean, I'm not a qualified engineer, but we probably should verify those numbers, and maybe that's something Labella, can help us with, in terms of coming up with the real numbers. There was, I mainly based it on a paper, I can't remember the reference to it, that.
It's the one that's quoted there, the NAF 2011.
Yeah, it went into pretty good, it pretty went into pretty detailed information about, you know.
It's
in
the
terms
NOP
of-
one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had a lot of things itemized out in terms of trucking and excavation,
Yeah.
and it had a lot of details. Whether or not those numbers accurately reflect, I tried to account based on the time that was estimated, and tried to move that forward 5 years, or 5 or 6 years, and account for that as well too. But again, it's a rough number.
It does say right here, per the local law, this amount may be periodically reviewed by the town at its discretion and the amount altered accordingly. So, I mean, we don't have to get the number within a dollar.
That's in the next paragraph.
Well, yeah, it's further down, but I mean, we don't have to get that number, you know, perfect. We can always change it later if we find out that, I mean, it seems high, but,
I think that's true.
yeah.
Yeah,
That we can review it.
we can review and change it.
Okay, you want to read the third paragraph, please?
In
Okay.
reality, in the unlikely event that the project had to be decommissioned, and that one, I don't really understand that statement.
Well,
Why
you
is
need to
it-
read the whole paragraph, then we'll discuss it.
Okay. It is more likely that turbines and associated equipment would be sold to another power provider rather than sold for scrap for the value of the raw materials. Individual rotors, generating equipment, and towers would likely have value and demand on the open market. 10 to 20-year-old turbines being decommissioned in Europe are commonly reconditioned and sold as operating machines rather than for scrap. And again, I don't understand how, what they mean by in the unlikely event that the project had to be commissioned. Isn't it?
And how would you answer your question?
Well, isn't it an assumption that that this is a decommissioning plan and that we are supposed to have one because at some point they will be decommissioned?
Mhm.
What I'm hearing is that there's a possibility that they may never be decommissioned. Does that seem like?
That's what the writing says.
Right. Okay, so that sends me back to the first section, anticipated life of wind turbines. When we start talking about the idea that we're going to start replacing them, it makes me think more likely even that possibly they do have in mind the idea that they will replace them on the same towers at some point. So even more likely it becomes now that I really need to look into this wind law and say, can they just do that? Can they just go ahead and replace them? And do we want to have any say in it? If we don't want to have any say in it, that's fine. But if we want to have some say, then we need to make sure that we have the say in it. Make sense?
So you're concerned if they decommission a turbine, whether or not the town gets in on it again.
Well, no.
That's your concern?
Decommissioning, I assume, is taking it down.
Yeah,
But
taking
in
it
reading
down.
this, I'm seeing a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's.
What we've been talking about all along is the idea of turbines are done, take them down, take the towers down, take the pads away, put the ground back to dirt. That's what we've been talking about.
Yes.
We haven't ever talked about, to my memory, the idea that they will actually be coming in at some point 10, 20, 30 years from now, taking the towers off the top, taking the generators off the top of the towers, putting new generators on, and then just going about their business for another 20 years. We
So
haven't
now
even
your
discussed that.
concern is whether we can get in on that or not.
Well, do we have any say? I mean, they're
Well, all
happening in
right,
the
do
town.
we have any say on it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
your concern now.
definitely, yeah, yeah.
Do we have
And-
any concern on repair, restoration, improvement, anything like that that goes into?
Well, and what does decommissioning consist of? How do you define decommissioning? Does
Yeah.
decommissioning only mean removal of generators, towers, pads, and putting the land back in place? Or does decommissioning also mean putting the generators, new generators back in the towers? Because if that's the case, then this plan itself actually has no relation at all, possibly, to that aspect of what's going on. Maybe this is only for the one aspect of it, which is taking the whole thing down. Maybe we need a whole other plan for what they're gonna do in terms of putting the new generators back up in the towers. It doesn't seem to be addressing that, this plan, other than just mentioning it in passing.
Okay,
I think the,
Third-
I think you're having problems with the adjective, the unlikely. I think that could
Well,
be-
listen,
that could be
words
struck.
have meaning.
Well,
We developed a language
that's-
because that was the whole idea, you know, to say what we mean.
I think that word kind of conflicts with the whole point of the document, the unlikely,
Yeah.
because
But I didn't-
everything has an end at some point, so.
I don't,
you have to have a plan
I
for
don't
that.
get that that's what his concern is.
No,
I get
no,
that
it's
his
just-
concern is, if they change out of 3 blades, are we gonna have, does it have to be reviewed by the town board?
Yeah, it's like-
Am I incorrect, Mike?
You are correct in part as far as it goes, but you could also read it in the unlikely event that the project had to be decommissioned. That implies also to me that perhaps they will just leave the towers and the generators in place forever, even though they may not be running anymore, because maybe we don't have any right to make them decommission that.
Our law-
Maybe
our law
they
addresses
could just
that.
leave everything just sitting there, even though the blades aren't running anymore, even though it's seized up or whatever, run out of
Well,
oil,
I think you
whatever.
better read the law.
Yeah, I think we better,
I think
yeah.
our law-
No,
I think
you
our law
need
does
to.
it. I think our law does
The
it.
law
just
does,
that.
Law is very
if
clear.
it's not operational for
Yeah.
12 months.
For
it's supposed
12
to be-
months.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
We can take, but if you need to read it more,
I've
There is-
read it 20 times and I probably need 20
There is a
more.
process on
Yeah.
page 819.
yeah,
Thanks.
As far as
about that.
The process.
So you wanna go on to the third topic?
Ensuring decommissioning and site restoration funds. According to the Town of Enfield Wind Energy Facilities local law, the project will continuously maintain a fund, bond, letter of credit, or equivalent financial security instrument payable to the Town of Enfield for the removal of non-functioning wind turbines and appurtenant facilities in a form and amount approved by the town board for the period or the life of the facility. Prior to approval of the project by the building department of the Town of Enfield, the project will, in writing, provide a surety bond or financial security instrument in a proposed amount not less than $180,000 per turbine, or a total of $1,250,000, assuming 7 turbines, plus an additional $100,000 for assuring road repair during decommissioning, renewable on an annual basis for the removal of non-functioning turbines and associated facilities. Per the local law, this amount may be periodically reviewed by the town at its discretion, and the amount altered accordingly for the estimated cost of removal, decommissioning, and restoration. The project sponsor will fully comply with the local law concerning decommissioning and site restoration. As per a vote held on August 16, 2016, the project will replace any surety bond with a letter of credit or cash escrow account by the time turbines are commissioned, and letter of credit or cash escrow account will be the financial instrument used for the life of the project rather than a surety bond.
So is there discussion on that section?
I hate to be picky, but they make it very clear that prior to the approval of the project, that they will, in writing, provide a surety bond or financial security. And then they go on to say later that the project will comply with the local law concerning decommissioning site restoration as per vote held on August 16th that will replace any surety bond with a letter of credit or cash escrow account. So I don't understand why in the first paragraph they say, according to the town energy law, the project will continuously maintain a fund, bond, letter of credit, or equivalent financial security instrument payable to the town of Enfield for the removal of these turbines.
That's because that's what the law says.
Yeah, but we talked about the bond issue.
Yes,
So
yes.
what I'm saying is that, as far as my understanding of how legal things work, if something is unclear in terms of a legal context, in terms of how it's written, it leaves an opening for it to be interpreted in different ways. To me, this becomes unclear because the first sentence that they're saying is that we can do any of these things. Then they're saying, but we will do a bond later on until the turbines are up, and then that we will change that to a letter of credit later on after the turbines are up.
How
So
does
why do we
that-
have this first sentence?
How does that leave the town vulnerable?
Because if you put information into a contract with people that contradicts each other, over here it says one thing, over here it says another thing.
And you feel these two
I feel like to
paragraphs
some degree it's contradictory, yes.
is
I do,
contradictory
yeah.
and that makes you uncomfortable?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Can I just mention a typo in the numbers? 180 per turbine times 7 would be 1,260,000, not 1,250,000.
60, you said?
Yes, yes, it's off 10,000.
Say that again, Michael.
In the middle of the paragraph where it mentions the 180 per turbine,
Oh, right.
times 7, it mentions it as 1,250,000.
The mathematics is
Yeah, so
incorrect.
The math is off by 10,000.
In the interest of time management, what's the procedure? I'll withdraw my resolution. Do we need, I guess we need a second.
Second.
All in favor of withdrawing this resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. I put forth the resolution, so now that was withdrawn, so this next one's gonna be 59, right? Whereas a predecessor in interest of Black Oak Wind Farm filed a site application with the town board pursuant to the Wind Energy Facilities Law of 2009 for the development of 7 wind-powered generating facility, and whereas on June 9, 2010, the board passed a resolution accepting its role as lead agency pursuing to the seeker. Whereas after preparation of both draft and final environmental impact statements on December 14, 2015, the town board issued a finding statements for the project pursuant to the seeker. And whereas the project is choosing to withdraw their supplemental environmental impact statement from consideration by the town board and plan to proceed with final permits for the original layout, which was approved January of 2015. And the seeker additional was amended in July of 2015, and whereas they stated clearly in their supplemental EIS, they never gave up the right to build the original layout when they proposed changes to it. And whereas the original finding statements and the Town of Enfield Wind Energy Facilities Law are the guidebook for what has to be performed to comply with their permit conditions, now therefore be it resolved that the Black Oak Wind Farm landscaping plan be approved. Could I get a second?
Second.
So we're on to the landscaping plan, which the board has had since Friday. The public has had for a lesser amount of time. So what is the discussion, who wants to lead off the discussion on the wind farm landscaping plan?
I'd be happy to go again.
All right, Mike, you lead off.
Again, I would say we haven't had the time to read this, and as far as we know, there may well be some expertise involved that's beyond our expertise level, because I don't really have much knowledge of landscaping. That's probably not the most significant factor, though, and it's just more in keeping with what I think of as our procedure, again, we need to look at it, talk about it, have the time, and because it's been brought up at this meeting, I feel like our procedure asks for us to talk about it at the next meeting or to vote on it at the next meeting, not at this meeting.
I also feel that there was someone who spoke up, one of our citizens, about doing things as more of a whole than in little piecemeals. And this is, part of the, I don't like doing one piece and then leaving another and going on to the next. I think we should be looking at all of these things and bringing it back.
Again, another thought that I had, as same as last time, is I really would like to have a letter from Black Oak saying that there are no changes at all in this project as they're envisioning it now from when it was envisioned and approved in the final finding statement. I would feel much more comfortable having that letter in front of me, making, voting on any of these plans, knowing that I can really trust that that's the case.
Any other discussion?
Should we be tabling the rest of these till another time?
Sounds that way.
And like I said,
Yeah.
there's,
Well, the motion is about the landscaping plan.
right, I'm suggesting that we table the landscaping plan and all the other related ones, the invasive species, the fire prevention, and the complaint resolution to another meeting, and that will give us time to resolve the financial part of this, as well as give the public more eyes on this, as well as us.
With a motion on the table,
You can withdraw the motion.
I'm gonna
Withdraw the
withdraw the
motion.
motion
Did you
and
want-
then his
Did
motion.
you want me to,
I'm gonna withdraw this motion. Is there a second to the withdrawal?
Second.
All in favor of withdrawing the Black Oak Wind Farm landscaping plan?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, your motion.
I'd like to make a motion to defer the invasive species plan, the fire and emergency plan, and the community relations and dispute resolution plan to another later time as well. To another-
Second?
Well,
Second.
Do you know what later time you want
I
to defer
was
to?
gonna say to possibly the next meeting. Do I have to be specific on that?
I think it would be helpful if
I
you were.
think-
I think we need another meeting.
To the next regular meeting.
You want it to the next regular meeting, you don't want a special meeting.
No.
Okay, is that the end of the motion?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
I think waiting a month is too long.
Well, we still have the finances to work out.
I would tend to agree with both of you. Waiting a month seems like a long time. At the same time, it would be good to have some of the preliminary work in place to know better what's going on with the finances. Is it possible that we can get the finances sorted out, at least so we know what they owe
Yes.
in a fairly short
I can
time?
do that in 2
Okay.
weeks.
And is it possible that if we do that and it's clear, and if Black Oak agrees to the dollar amount, do you know if they'll be able to pay that when you get that sorted out, or will it be a while? before
No,
they
I
can
don't
do
know
Okay,
that.
okay, so,
But perhaps the project sponsor could weigh in on that.
Yeah, it's certainly possible that I can get the town paid back once I know what the figure is, and I have a clear line of sight to the rest of these items being addressed by the board. Like I said, financing is released once I have a clear line of sight to permitting this project.
that, I don't
I
understand what
don't know
that
what that
means.
means either.
I don't either, no. No.
Threshold
Um,
hostage is
Like I said, the town is on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars. And, I would like to see that at least resolved before we move too much further. I feel really uncomfortable with us doing this and hearing the balances. And we just got another bill that we signed off, tonight for like another
Yeah, $13,000.
Well, I paid $30,000 in the month of August, and I'm prepared to pay that amount again in September, as long as I can see that the charges are viable and that the town is making progress on the permitting process.
Do we need to make a resolution to clarify what happens next in terms of the town, in going forward, straightening out what bills, are billable to Black Oak, and get that straightened out? And also issue a notice of payment? in that
Well, I
timeframe.
don't think you have to have a resolution for that, but if that makes you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, that's what, I mean, is all that gonna happen in 2 weeks, or am I?
Well, that was my concern, was whether we could, whether that, if Michael needs to have that taken care of for another meeting, then I am not gonna go above him and say, let's just do it in 2 weeks. I agree that his concerns need to be taken seriously in terms of the money, because that's something that he sees clearly. For me, it's the letter from Black Oak saying everything's gonna be the same, and I don't know if I'll have that in 2 weeks or not too. So I guess it's hard to know whether we can do it at a regular meeting or do it at a special meeting in 2 weeks, because we don't know the answer to whether or not the money actually can be paid or will be paid. And we don't know the answer to whether we'll have that letter in place. And maybe that letter is beyond my right to ask. I don't know. I don't know if I have a right to ask for that or not. It just, we've been up and down a lot of hills here and through a lot of different places, and there's a lot of conversations, words, thoughts, ideas going on from lots of different people, and I don't know about anybody else, but I'm definitely confused about what we're actually doing here and what they're actually wanting to build, and I need to go back to square one. You know, I didn't know actually until Monday that we were doing this, because I didn't pick up my emails over the weekend. So I'm still working on saying, well, wait a minute, is this really the case? And again, I need a letter that says exactly what's going on. And if that's not legal for me to ask that, then I'll just have to find a way to get comfortable. But
Would you please read back the motion?
Find it. Move to, move to defer the four motions, or the four resolutions,
For the meeting.
to another right, that were that are on the agenda, the
Do you want me to read it again?
invasive species plan, fire and emergency plan, community relations and dispute resolution plan, until the next regular meeting.
Okay. Was there a second?
Yes, Virginia.
Virginia seconded. Is there other discussion on Michael's motion?
no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye, me. It's carried.
Should we consider a resolution, not going forward with any more work on this until the town is paid for the balance? Oh,
I don't know if that's legal or
I don't know
not.
if that's necessary.
I don't know the legality of that.
I think,
For turbine.
I guess my concern is, do we need a resolution to, well, we just need to figure out what's billable.
Right,
And
right. I'm in the process.
I would suggest that before you consider that resolution, you clarify what the status of the billing is. There has been a position taken by the applicant that a number of the bills were not correctly billed to her project.
Mhm.
I think that should be clarified before you would consider that resolution.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah, I think we need to know what's billable, and if we've already billed stuff that shouldn't have been billable, then we need to figure out what the balance of that is.
Yes,
And
well,
bill-
that's
bill-
done, it's done by the method of coding. And when I code it correctly, the bookkeeper will, pretty instantly run a balance.
What are the, what are the charges in question? Are they like Guy's charges or are they other
Both.
charges?
The charges that our firm had, Labella had, and Guy had regarding the numerous FOIL requests that were submitted.
Mainly surrounding FOIL.
Okay. And so the FOIL requests wouldn't be billable?
Are not billable to the project because that is, oh dear, I've heard the term so much. It's a function that the town board has to provide to the citizens, and it's not, it is a town cost of doing business.
It's not an application-specific cost. FOIL is considered to be a general cost that the town incurs.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about like Guy's cost? Because, we
Same.
each consulted Guy, and that is our interaction with our, with the town's, representative, the town's legal expert on this project, but it may not be directly billable,
Probably very little.
or very little.
I
agree with
spent
what Matt says. That's a
time
good
with
idea.
Guy, and probably not very much. That's been coded correctly mostly.
Okay.
Mostly.
And does that give you or us enough time to straighten out the coding and the bills?
Oh, yeah.
And then,
I'm on the verge of,
and so.
I've got enough
I believe you
information.
received our breakdown.
Yes,
Those costs.
yes. Well, and then I retrieved it after I printed it out and refiled it. Yes, and I've retrieved it.
At the end of that, we'd be issuing a notice of payment.
Sure,
That would be
I got the letter right on the computer.
Okay, we've got copies of other ones.
Hmm?
We've got copies of other ones. So,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
thank you.
Well, don't expect it's going to be a lot different
What do you mean by, in terms of the wording?
in terms of the wording.
So, maybe one thing we could do, Ann, though, is while if we're going to take this month as the motion just stated, maybe we could get some input on some of these plans from people that we would want to get input from, so that we can have that available to us.
Well,
when we discuss them. Certainly the fire and emergency plan, I would
Who
want
do you want?
I would want to have the fire chief, I would want to present it to him and ask him to comment on it.
Anybody else on
I
that
would-
plan?
I would probably want to, I assume the Bella has copies of these, or they don't have copies?
No, they do not.
Okay, I would want to send probably at least the landscaping and the invasive species plan to them and just ask them if they would just look at it quickly. They don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time on it, but just at least have some kind of an oversight thing. This looks good, this has some real problems, whatever. At the same time, maybe I could ask Dan, is that in keeping, Dan, with the kind of things that Labella would do?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We do that all the time for different
Okay.
projects.
Then it seems like it would be great to, if we don't feel like the fire department has enough expertise in understanding the conditions involved with what fire and emergency issues might look like with wind towers, and that doesn't mean they wouldn't do their job well, it just means they just aren't experienced enough or knowledgeable enough, then we might consider the idea of having Labella look at the fire and emergency plan as well, with the understanding that they would maybe not tear it apart, but at least give us a quick overview and say, this looks pretty good or whatever. I don't know how much time they would need. Maybe we'd have to have a discussion with them ahead of time and kind of make it clear to them exactly what it is we're looking for. But it seems like they've done this enough that they
Yeah,
would have
the
a
fire and
pretty good
emergency
sense.
is pretty straightforward. It deals with the materials, the size of the structures, and access to the structures.
So
Public safety
if we could actually get a letter back from Labella in relation to at least those three, it would be great. I don't know with the community relations and dispute resolution plan, it isn't necessarily so much of an issue for Labella, but at the same time, I'm sure Labella has some experience in it, and we did, I think we've discussed in the past, that we do want Labella's input on many things, and we certainly don't know, we don't have a wide range of experience and knowledge about what other community relations and dispute resolution plans might look like. We might actually get at least a determination from Labella saying that this one that they've given us is pretty good. It might have some problems here, it might have some problems there. At the same time, from my reading of the community dispute and resolution plan, community relations and dispute resolution plan, I think there's significant legal issues involved with it that I would want to have our lawyer look at and give a determination in terms of those legal issues that matter to me, because I can say, you know, that this is a problem, or I think it's a problem, whatever, but I think maybe it would be better for the board members to know that the lawyers also might think it's a problem. And if it isn't a problem, that's fine. I still am gonna think it's a problem, but at least we have a determination one way or the other that legally it is a problem. Some of the language in there, though, to me, is not consistent with papers or ideas that I've seen in Word format in other places that actually say that people will do things. I'm not getting the sense from this plan that there's actually any, as Guy put it in his, I think his 2010 email, there's no teeth here. And I
No,
really-
that was not Guy.
Oh, okay, well, that's,
I'll try again too.
okay.
He totally disagrees.
Okay, well, that's good. And to
I'll try to
me,
get you that in a better form so it
yeah, to me,
stands
the
out more.
teeth are missing here,
Oh,
so.
well,
So, all those things,
he
I
thinks
think,
there are plenty of teeth.
in
You
this,
certainly can ask Guy to weigh in on on it again.
has he
Yeah.
read this new one?
Right.
Has he read the new plan? that came
No,
out
that was
Friday?
about the wind farm law.
Right,
It was
okay.
about the wind farm law.
So he hasn't weighed in on
But I
this.
think he could certainly weigh in
Oh,
on the complaint
yeah.
resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Is this gonna incur more cost?
Of course.
Yes. So we're gonna instruct Labella and Guy to incur more costs, and we haven't got paid up for the other stuff.
So maybe we should wait to do that until we've been paid up, is that what you feel?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I think at some point then in the future, it would be good to get some expertise on here. I can't disagree with Michael. He seems to have a really strong feeling about them paying up before we spend more money, so I'm gonna leave that in his.
It would also give us time to look at these documents ourselves and come up with.
Well, we're
good-
already
good
put it,
questions.
it's already on next month's agenda.
Okay. yeah,
Right,
so-
that-
It's on next month's agenda. That was what the motion said.
Right.
So then, at next month's agenda, if we decide that we want to go ahead and deal with these, and we have been paid up, then we could decide whether or not we wanna have some expertise from some other people.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, go from there. Yeah. That makes sense.
Thank you very much.
I don't know what they did, but
I mean, I don't want to kick you out.
No, believe me.
a lot of the concern about
Cost, I should have left a couple hours ago.
I didn't say that.
I do.
Are they leaving?
We will go on to the consent agenda. Another addition, there are budget amendments number 22 and 23. I took I had the number of last month's agenda, from last month's agenda. Am I correct, Alice? On the budget amendment number?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Okay, is there any part of the consent agenda that any board member would like brought out separately?
I'd like to ask a question about that. Is that okay, or do I need to answer that question only?
Can I speak real quick?
I guess we can try.
I was waiting for the public comment period at the end of the meeting to talk, and it was addressed to Marguerite and Peter and all them, and I see that they left, so. Is any of them,
Didn't say anything.
is any of them coming back? Is my question.
I'm not able to answer that question. I have no knowledge about the comings and goings at a public
Because
meeting.
this was pretty important, and I wanted to wait to speak, so now I can't go over any of that with him.
Typically, in the past, when they've left a meeting, they haven't returned to the meeting after they've left.
Well, that was my issue, because I was trying to be polite and not speak during your guys' whole thing, but you kept reiterating some letter that you're gonna get from Marguerite about the old plan, which I'm completely confused about, because the old plan states that a turbine and substation is going on our property, when our lawyer advised us that the substation is not going on our property and that they have to get permission to do so. I wanted to go over that with her, but she left.
That's something you probably should speak to her. you know,
I
to-
never see her, that's why I was gonna try to talk to her about it.
Well, when you address, in terms of the public comment period, the comments are really
Are
to
we
the
here
board.
to try and understand and ask questions and?
I just wanted to bring that up
Do you mind if I
because
speak to Teresa? Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
If you mind, it's fine, I don't.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
trying to be polite and wait till the end, but then they all left.
I understand. I think at this point, I was certainly unsure about whether or not it was gonna be the plan as written originally. And I'm still unsure about it, and I know that I did talk to you fairly,
Clarification on our end is
fairly
that we're
recently.
contracted for one turbine, that's it.
yeah.
So
So,
if the old plan states that the substation's going on our property, it's not in a contract, so our lawyer states that they have to get permission to do so.
so that was my understanding, which is why I just wanted them to make it clear what was going on. And I think we'll have to wait until the next meeting.
And that's fine, I'll be willing
Yeah.
to come, but I was trying to be polite and wait till the
Yeah.
end. But I wanted to address it and ask her if that's what the plan is, or if it's not the plan. Because I was gonna wait till the end, but then they all left.
Yeah, I think for right now, we can only wait until the next meeting unless you wanna have some contact with her, or unless we
No,
have
we
contact
deal
with
with
her.
it with the
Yeah.
lawyers, so
Okay,
it's fine.
so I think, well, you'll have to wait until the next
That's
meeting to
fine.
find out, yeah.
And part of that's probably private, business discussions that we should have. That's outside the scope.
Are we back to the consent agenda?
Sorry for interrupting.
We're back to the consent agenda. You have a question.
I wanted
You
to
don't
ask
want
a
to pull it
question.
out.
Well, I had a question about pulling out the budget amendments, and that was because one of them had to do, I know, with an issue that Buddy had brought up in the past, it seemed like, and I know there was some question about the CHIPS funds and where it got put, and I just wanted to see if there was something that you, Buddy, needed to address in relation to the budget amendment, or if you're comfortable with where it is and as it is now, and just go ahead and vote on it.
Is what you're doing tonight?
Yeah,
Yes, that's fine. That's
Okay.
what needs to be done.
okay, that's fine, then I'm fine, just leave that in.
Okay, I move that the consent agenda be approved with the corrections that were suggested to the regular meeting minutes and the special meeting minutes.
Second.
Discussion in general?
What were the corrections to the minutes? I don't recall.
Just the titles were wrong.
Well, the special meeting was the title at the top,
Okay.
and the regular meeting was what I felt was a more appropriate, well, let's see, I don't have my written up copy now.
I recall that now from the email.
It was substituting reimbursable for returnable or something like that. You remember that now? Okay. Call the vote?
Councilperson Bryant? Councilperson Carpenter?
Aye.
Councilperson Handstein?
Aye.
Councilperson Miles?
Aye.
Supervisor Ryder?
Aye. Correspondence. Once again, a constituent has asked me about flood insurance. And once again, I want to remind the board that we have not turned our attention to some business that the town board needs to do. This is probably the 8th person in this town that's asked me about this. Because we haven't done this flood deal, they can't get insurance on their mortgage, on their house and their mortgage. And I just want to remind the board that that's business that we need to turn our attention to.
What action do we need?
Yeah.
I haven't had time to research it. Dan
It's a FEMA flood managed, flood.
Dan
zone
indicates to
determination.
me there's a bit to it.
There's a bit to it. They have to have
Okay.
flood studies and determine where the
I-
floodplain exists, which has never, Enfield was left out of when it did Tompkins County
Right.
20 years ago.
Right.
So that,
But
so we have to do that.
people in our town suffer financial loss because we haven't done what we need to do.
And so the town is obligated to do this.
Yeah,
Well-
it's been,
It
well.
has to do it.
Well, 12 years ago they should have done, we should have done it.
Yeah, there's a flood rate mapping study that needs to be completed. And
So people can get insurance in the house, but they can't get flood insurance, or they just can't get insurance?
well,
at
what
all?
they can't get is an elevation certificate because there's no flood elevation shown in Enfield. And there's a lot of things you get. We could do a hydrologic and hydraulic study and determine where the floodplains are and submit that to FEMA and have the firm updated. The county has been trying to upgrade. They flew the whole county with LiDAR information, so now we have topographic information that we can use. But it's a fairly involved study and costs
So
money.
we'd have to hire an engineer come to do that.
Can any of it be part of, from the aquifer study? It's like
No,
it's totally.
it's surface
No.
water as opposed to
No.
subsurface water. There's some relationships there, but it's not
So-
the same thing.
So if they can't get the elevation certificate, does that mean they can't get homeowners insurance, or just not the flood?
They
rider
can't get the
insurance?
federally subsidized flood insurance.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But they still
They
have.
can't get it cheaper.
And the mortgagers will not.
Give them a
if-
mortgage.
If they think there's a chance that they're in a flood zone,
Right.
they can't get a mortgage.
And it's certain mortgagers.
Any idea what the town will have to spend for that study or no?
Tens of thousands.
More than we got.
I mean,
Well, no, so we get paid ours.
it's just.
Just be all-
They- Well, I can look into what the rate, but I know we went to a workshop, so Ann went to part of that too. And there may be some federal grant money out there to do that, but it hasn't. we
Well,
haven't-
you gotta rate it, you gotta ask for it.
Yeah, you
But
gotta ask
Tompkins
for
County
it.
did other towns?
Hmm?
Oh, yeah, other towns
The
do.
other towns got it, but they of course got some severe flooding damage too.
Town of Caroline, you better believe they did it.
Yeah.
Newfield.
But Tompkins
Yeah.
County
And I don't
did
think Newfield
this, did this
did.
study and covered the expense for
Well,
other
well,
towns?
FEMA did the study 20 years ago. But the water, the stream, the floodplains, the streams in Enfield are relatively small other than Enfield Creek. Down through the park, but that's a pretty steep gorge, so there wasn't. Usually the areas that got significant damage and costs were studied.
Hmm,
And
Gotcha.
there was no significant damages. Just because they can't get flood insurance doesn't mean they're at high risk,
Right,
Mhm.
right.
so.
I'm
But-
just trying to find out if we can get somebody else to pay for it,
I-
the county.
I don't think you're gonna get the county to pay for it.
But they may have more experience and know
Well,
what the grants are.
the county's been
Well,
involved. in
I got that in my folder.
Oh, okay.
I got that in my folder.
So, I'll do a little, I haven't done any FEMA mapping lately, but we can look at it.
The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation gave a notice of complete application. Tompkins County Stormwater District SWCD,
Soil
Soil and Water Conservation District, applied to DEC for a permit to work in Trumbull's Corners Road along Enfield Creek. And it's located in the town, and so we are informed. And you can find the documents that they put in. Here's the project description. They propose to restore the stream channel to pre-flood alignment along 1,300 linear feet of a Class C tributary to Enfield Creek using flow deflection structures of large boulders and logs and floodplain benches to protect high eroding banks. The project is sited just west of Porter Hill Road and adjacent to Trumbull's Corners Road in the town of Enfield, county of Tompkins. You can find application documents and department draft permits are available for inspection during normal business hours at the address of the contact person. Who suggested that an appointment be made with the contact person? It is not subject to seeker because it's a type 2 action. And the proposed activity is not subject to review in accordance with State Historic Preservation Act. The application type is exempt and/or the project involves the continuation of an existing operational activity. And comments on this project must be submitted in writing to the contact person no later than October 6, 2016. Contact person is Teresa Phelps, New York State DEC in Cortland. Buddy, is there any reason we should comment on this?
Not that I know of, we're helping them with it.
The Tompkins Cortland Community College Foundation wants to invite you into a Civil War Nurses Memorial at the Tompkins Cortland Community College Forum on September 28th at 5 p.m. And I believe our historian is doing some work along the same lines. Cayuga Lake Watershed Municipal Organization sent us a letter. Department of Transportation announces the availability of $98.7 million in funding to support transportation-related projects and programs, including bicycle, pedestrian, multi-use paths and/or projects that will help meet the requirements of the Clean Air Act by reducing congestion and vehicle emissions. If anybody has any thoughts on that, get back to me. Received a letter from the county legislature. They are asking the New York State DEC for a public hearing in Tompkins County regarding the Dominion New Market Pipeline Project and expansion of the Borger Compression Station that was unanimously approved by the Planning, Development, and Environmental Quality Committee on August 17. If any of you would like to review that. And Better Housing of Tompkins County will be submitting a funding application to the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation. This program requires that public officials receive notice when sub-applications are submitted. Ithaca Neighborhood Housing is seeking $400,000 to fund home improvement projects for low-income homeowners in Tompkins County. The program will address health and safety, structural and energy deficiencies in existing homes. The program will serve every municipality in Tompkins County. We expect to learn whether this application has been approved by the end of 2016. So here. Here's the correspondence. No county legislator here? I don't think, so we have no report. Highway Superintendent's report.
We finished our last of our summer projects for paving today. We still have a couple roads to oil and stone. We did Enfield Center, 1 mile of that this year, and we did 1 mile Buck Hill this year, and the last mile of Fish Road, which we just finished today. And actually, Enfield Center Road, we did that with ourselves paving and trucking from other towns, and probably saved the town $20,000 by doing that ourselves. Cold mix paving. And the biggest thing about doing that on, because it was on our schedule and not having a schedule with vendors.
Did you put a bunch of new culverts under Enfield Center between Van Dorn and?
We did 3 road cross pipes, 40-foot long, and 8 to 10 driveway pipes that were rotted out.
On Enfield Center?
Correct. The part that we paved, that's prepping for paving.
I remember driving across those and being impressed with how smooth they were.
Yeah,
Didn't feel them.
There's a couple that's got a little dip in them. We're probably going to try to take them out, but they're not terrible.
How many miles of oil and stone do you do per year?
What we usually have been doing is sealing what we pave, because we pave with a coarse binder type, and it's so open you need to seal it. So then that's what we call oil and stone. And since the flood, that put us behind. We were doing about 5 miles a year oil and stoning. But since the flood, it's just barely keeping up with the roads that we repaved. That couple miles, I gotta check the money. I need to oil and stone, finish Fish Road, and then Enfield Center. And if I have enough money, I'd like to chip seal Sage Road and North Van Dorn's Road to tighten them up, and that would save them from falling apart. But that all depends on what we end up with money-wise. Also, I have my yearly equipment inventory.
Thank you.
That I have a copy for everybody.
Thank you.
That's inventory yearly for, and then estimated cost of repairs for next year. And the last page is suggested equipment to buy for next year. And then I have this, the replacement program chart that we've been talking about.
Oh, thank you.
The extra on that, and
so all of the current equipment is on here.
all what equipment?
All the currently listed equipment is on here.
Motor equipment,
Only motor equipment.
correct. And salt spreaders. out and do the tamps and chainsaws and stuff like that. You wanna look at that real quick? I got it broke down. Under the miles and hours, it's all explained down at the bottom. But I have the miles and hours of everything we have. And I did this report in 2012. So over to the right in that, you'll see purple miles and hours. That's how much we've put on in 4 years since 2012.
What's the deal with that
Say that again?
excavator? Is it?
First column,
He said to the right.
Well, he said
but
To
the
the
right,
right
right side of the first column.
Of
miles.
your miles and
second
hours
column.
column,
Yeah, second column.
Oh, that
purple number,
That purple.
that's what we've put on in 4 years of the equipment. The one truck that we bought last year, that's green because that's 1 year's worth of mileage from when we bought it last year till now.
So we're just adding those two numbers together to get the total mileage right now. We're adding together the black and the purple to get the total mileage.
No,
as they are
the
right now.
total mileage is the total mileage.
Oh, I see, okay.
The purple
broke
is
out.
the mileage we put on since 2012,
Since 2012, yeah.
since when I did this in 2012.
We could use the 2004 Mac.
See, you got a new excavator listed down here at the bottom, that one that's getting repaired, they're not gonna be able to fix that? or
Where's the
what?
new excavator?
What's that?
There's a new excavator.
Down here.
Oh, to buy one,
Yeah,
yes.
does that mean that that one with a blown engine, they're not gonna be able to fix it, or just?
Well, it's fixed.
Oh, they did get it fixed,
Yeah,
finally.
we did put a new motor in it last year,
Yeah,
and it messed up this year, and we were down a month and a half, all under warranty. They fixed the whole thing.
yeah,
They
it took them a
it,
while,
they
right?
put it in and out, so.
But you want two excavators? Is that why there's a proposed new one down here, or
Or no, I still want to replace the old one.
the one that just got fixed?
Yeah. It's not as big emergency to replace it, but it still should be put on. I mean, you're getting up in hours. You have all the other stresses. I mean, we put a lot of money in that in the last 5 years too. Different components. But it still it's still an old machine.
But it's under warranty?
No, the engine was that we put in last year,
The engine was under warranty.
which is out now.
And what's a low
It was
wheeler?
only a 1 year warranty and it ran out in August.
Oh, the warranty's out. I thought you said the engine was out. Like, oh,
The first item, low wheeler, what's a low wheeler? The first replacement item on the list,
maybe 10-wheeler?
oh, new 10
10-wheeler.
wheeler, sorry, not low wheeler.
New 10-wheeler with plow and wing and spreader.
That's just a big plow truck with a plow and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Are those prices for the cost of a new machine?
Yes.
And you'll be getting your budget request to me?
Actually, since it's only Friday, I have it tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I wasn't here last month, but I read the minutes, and I had bought a man lift, and it was talked about that it was to help fix the building and the lights and stuff down the highway. The sole purpose of buying that was to do tree work not just to work on the building and lights, just wanted to make sure it was a piece of highway equipment that would be used for highway work. And the plus is, we will have it for use to do any high work that we need to
Overhead
do
things.
around the town. So-
Did you feel like it was in pretty good shape?
Yeah, I actually didn't go there to buy that.
Okay.
Last year, I sort of was looking at them, and then there it was. And it is a little overkill in size, but the money
Nice
was
lift.
right, and so.
It is a nice lift, yeah. A lot you can do with it.
You know, so I just
Yeah.
went for it.
Yeah.
We'd be using, do trees to cut out over the road and stuff, the limbs that we can't reach. The county's used one for a couple of years now, and it's worked out really
Yeah.
well.
What did you do before?
Nothing,
Yeah, just didn't do it.
yeah, only what we could reach with the pole saw
Yeah,
and stuff, so.
yeah.
And I thought it was a plus, so we could use it for the town, for the
Yeah.
building and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you should get a lot of years out of it, probably.
Yeah, it's, it's not a high use machine,
Yeah.
so we should get.
Right, yeah.
Any questions or?
The bridge repair one, we have the 2016 as 30,000, but the 2017 as 300.
Rockin'
It's
Mitchell.
Rockin' Up Smash, we got it as Rockin' Smash.
Actually, I didn't bring it with me, but I got Tompkins County engineer to come up and, look at it, and, the engineer department, and give me a price on it, and they estimated around $400,000.
Will the county or any other monies help pay for that?
That's actually what I was doing in, New York State. I didn't really want to mention it because it's just out there now, but there's a grant out for bridge money and culvert pipe replacements. And that's what Tompkins County, they came up and did the engineering of it and pictures and stuff, and give me estimated cost so we could apply for that,
Okay.
which was sent in on Friday.
So that could save us a lot of money.
Yeah,
Possibly.
it could, but from what I'm gathering from the county and other people, being a low volume road, and there's only so much money that, you know, if we get it, we should be very happy if we get anything.
Is it you get it or you don't get it, or they just give you a certain amount?
Could be both, could be only 100,000, it could be for the whole project.
When will they decide?
I don't know. They haven't said. It was another thing the government did with all this like pave New York, but instead it's bridge New York / culvert pipes. And they only gave us a month to get everything sent in to apply for it, so. And we got that done. And I've also put in for Labella to come and inspect our 2 bridges. There is concern about the bridge on Rumsey Hill Road, so I'm getting official inspection done on them to get them evaluated and see what we gotta do with those. I was hoping to have that by budget time. I don't know if I will or not. Rumsey Hill though is particularly, that if nothing else, might end up getting posted for weight limit or something.
Can I ask a question? There was a fellow here a meeting ago that was having a problem working out with you getting a culvert. in
Greg,
his
I seen
driveway.
that
Yeah.
in minutes.
Right, at some point, I think Dan was gonna try and get with you on that. Did that ever get sorted out, or?
We didn't talk about that at this point.
Okay,
No, man, I don't understand why Dan was gonna get with me about that, because that's my business, and I'm not trying to be rude,
right,
but I've been dealing with him for over a year and a half. And if we have the right-of-way law 2010 for construction and stuff in the right-of-way of the town right-of-way,
Mhm.
which we have permits for culvert pipes and driveways and any construction in the right-of-way.
Right,
So-
is it an issue for, is this something that he can't get from us? That we can't do that for him?
Yes, I don't wanna do it.
Okay, is it something that,
Because it is not for the road. It's for him drainage out of his barn and his driveway and stuff. Let me finish that. I've had the county there, I've had Soils and Waters there when we first started this a year ago. And there's not a problem with the road at all. It's what he wants to do with his driveway and stuff. He wants to put a culvert pipe in, which the land, all the land along that whole road comes down to the road. But he's up on the hill a little bit and it washes his driveway out and stuff, which is still gonna do no matter what. But in order to put a driveway pipe in, I'll have to do about 500 feet of new ditch. And then that will put it down to a cross pipe that will not take the water that will come off his property, and then I'll end up having to increase the size of the cross pipe. And Soils and Water has been there, and he needs to take care of the water issue up on his property to keep it from coming down to the road.
so even if he did it himself, it would
He
be,
can't do it himself.
wouldn't be, okay, well, he can't do it because he isn't allowed to, because it's in your right of way, in the town right of way, okay.
Correct.
So, do you have any idea of how we can solve this?
Not with him.
Well, do we owe him anything at all legally in terms of the town and what
I
he
went and looked at it
needs?
and I made a decision and it's not gonna happen.
Well, I think that's good to a degree. At the same time, if he brings it to the town board, then we at least have to address the issue in some way.
Which you are doing right now.
Exactly, yeah. So that's my concern is to say, when you say it's not gonna happen, is it because it can't happen? Because it's gonna be dangerous
It
to
is
the road?
not an improvement for the road.
Right. So if there was if there was a need for him to do that, how would he go about doing it in a way that's a
He would come to me, ask me for a permit, I would go look at the property, and I would decide whether or not we do it.
Right. What would make it so that you could decide yes, that it could be done? What changes would need to happen in terms of the overall project?
Show me where it would benefit the road.
Well, we aren't just benefiting the road though, we also are benefiting the people that live in Enfield,
No,
right?
sir, not with the highway department. Our main job is for public safety and public roads to keep them safe. The signs, the ditches, which everybody uses, but the ditches are put in for roads, not for draining fields, not for draining basements, not for any of that. It just happens. But the ditches are for road drainage, so the water doesn't go down the road, it goes off the road.
But we do put in culverts for people's driveways.
Yes, sir.
So
When there's a ditch,
where there's a ditch,
when you need a culvert.
right?
When it's flat, you don't need a pipe.
Oh, I get it. He doesn't have a ditch where he wants that pipe.
Correct.
And you'd have to build one for him.
Correct. 500 feet.
So he wants the drainage. He wants us to do the drainage work for him, is what I'm hearing you saying.
That's my opinion,
Right, I got it.
because everything's is coming off his hill, out of his barn, out of his barnyard, and it's a new farm,
Right.
basically, he's built over there. And this last winter even, we tolerated 2 to 4 inches of mud on the road all winter over there. We plowed off.
So is it a problem for him to put gravel just where he meets the road, back a ways, so he doesn't
No.
bring any mud onto the road?
Well, pretty soon he's gonna have to do something, because DEC is gonna be involved.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's any way for him, it seems like what he wants is to be able to get into his barn, right? Is that right or
He
not?
can get in and out, but the driveway's all washed. He hasn't maintained anything since he's been there.
Can't he just build his driveway up higher?
It's up high now, but it washes downhill, and it's got ruts in it and stuff. And
Doesn't sound like a culvert at the bottom would
I mean,
stop
I've
that
had the
anyway.
county there look at it. like I said, in soils and water, and they all agree that there's no need for a driveway pipe and stuff, and that he needs to take care of his problem up on his property. Even if he has to build a pond.
He needs to deal with drainage, right?
Correct.
Is it an issue for you, though? It sounds like it is, for him to be coming out of the muddy field onto the road and bringing mud onto the field. Is that a problem, what you would see as a problem?
I was waiting for complaints, and I finally got one in about, I don't know, June. Somebody finally complained, but
Right.
like I said, all winter, we scraped off 2 to 4 inches of mud on the road over there.
So what's his legal responsibility to do in that situation? If there's mud onto the road from him?
Farmer's exempt, more or less, and if it could cause an accident or something, and as long as I'm telling him he needs to clean it up or something like that, the liability falls on him if it's the cause of anything.
Okay.
And
But he
he'll end up in a
doesn't
civil-
want to just put some gravel there where he meets the road and do that?
No, he wants a ditch,
Okay.
period. That's what
Would
he
you
wants,
be
a
okay
ditch.
with him just putting the gravel in? Just putting gravel
I
where
don't
it
care what
meets
he
the
does
road?
with his driveway.
But if it comes over close to the road, it comes to the shoulder.
Well, that'd be working in our right of way.
Well, that's my
and
question, yeah. Is it okay with you if he brings gravel?
It is, but
onto
it
your right
cannot
of way?
be any higher than the road.
Exactly. So you still have the drainage off the road? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know, does that make sense? Tell him he can put gravel up to where the shoulder is and,
Well, we're gonna go there and do some work on the right of way, but that's as far as I'm going.
yeah.
We gotta actually go over there and grade it and cut the shoulder down, cause the shoulder is higher than the road right now.
So you get.
Plus, he
drainage
got a
on the
big
road.
rut down where
Right.
he was driving tractor on the road and we gotta grade that in before somebody goes off in it,
Yeah.
so.
You knew there was always more to the story.
Well, that's the whole idea. is
There's
that-
even a lot more to it, really, but
Okay.
he's got building material that's been on the right of way all winter, and it's lucky we didn't have snow, because if we had snow, we wouldn't have been able to push it back there, and so we would've had to do something with it. But because we didn't have a lot of snow, it wasn't an issue,
Is that the place, all those big trusses on the north side of Gray Road?
yes.
I heard he's not gonna be doing what he thought he was gonna do with those trusses.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, there's a lot more to it all.
Well,
And actually, that morning, he comes storming in my office demanding me to put a culvert pipe in. And I understand he's even said that he bought a pipe and everything, and I never told him to buy a pipe. He never got a permit to buy a pipe or anything like that, so.
well, I guess I just would want to go back to the board then and say, do we want to proceed in this by having this fella come in and talk to him and try and get him figured out? Or we would just let it go until he either lets it go or gets angry and
Well,
starts
it's
shooting
not,
people?
I'm sorry, I can't, it's not your
Well,
set.
that part of it is not our thing, but the fact that he came to the meeting and talked to us,
There's
our
nothing
thing.
you can do.
but he can come back to
I'm in
us.
charge of the roads and of the ditches and stuff.
But buddy, he wants an answer from us, and our answer can be,
Talk to your
it's
highway superintendent.
well, it can be, we understand now that it's a much more complicated issue, and that if you want to talk to the highway superintendent in the context of in this meeting, we will try and help you, but the fact is,
Well, that sounds
it's
pretty
not
good.
likely that you're gonna get a culvert in this place. It's not likely to happen.
Well,
If you
that's-
wanna find a better
that's what you wanna
solution,
do.
we can try and
But
help
I
you find a
think
better
you-
solution.
In the same time, you should read our right-of-way and construction law too, so you
Yeah,
have like what I'm
that's
saying.
a really good idea. I
Because
agree.
that covers,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that goes on that's not being dealt with, I can tell you that.
There's no
Good.
need for a ditch there where he wants his culvert.
No.
Well, great, thanks for being clear on that, I appreciate it. I didn't even get in a fight with you, pretty clear.
Tired.
Me too.
I'll spend a week on stuff.
Thank you. The code officer's report was left in your pile of papers. And the code officer had another commitment. So you're gonna have to save your questions till next month. The supervisor's report, I met with Earl Wright regarding getting set up and closing out the painting of the town hall. You, I hope, signed the audit claim tonight to pay him. I also met with Norm Smith regarding the final repairs to the town hall before and during painting. And I met with the auditors from the State Comptroller's Office regarding their audit of the town books. And they asked me to remind all board members to please return the letter that you received at your house to the Comptroller's Office. Did everybody receive their letter at their house?
I did,
I did.
and I sent it back.
I haven't sent it back yet.
I haven't either. Thanks for the reminder.
Logan's boss is looking for it.
Okay.
They are about done with collecting information from the town. Then they will set that in a pile and go finish some other audits. And maybe in about 4 months, we might get a preliminary report.
How many times do they do a year? It seems like it's a awful involved process.
There may be.
You may not be on the state controller's, state controller's thing. Usually about every week, they say that 4 or 5 entities have been completed.
Every week. Wow.
Every week.
It's a lot
It
of
doesn't it includes fire district, water districts, villages, cities, towns, and I'm not sure about school districts. I'm not sure the state controller's office does school districts. So they do a lot of entities. It's not just
stuff.
towns.
Towns, but
It's not just
Whatever's
towns. They did compliment us on the ease with which they could look at town minutes and a lot of town papers because we have them on the website, and they did note that. So I need to tell Sue Thompson, or report that to Sue Thompson, since she mainly takes care of that. So we're on to committee reports. Wind Farm Advisory Committee, Michael?
I think we had a meeting last night, and I think we had one a couple weeks ago. Basically, been good working meetings, and we're actually working through a draft update to our wind model. So we're continuing to work through that. We have, we haven't, in the draft, we have brackets around, some more controversial numbers that are yet to be discussed. But the goal is to eventually send recommendations to the town board on an update to allow for that to be discussed at the town board level.
Just want to understand it. Planning Board, Dan?
We did not meet this month. Probably no one knows we lost a planning board member this past, Kelvin Rotherman passed away.
Oh, I was out of town. Oh.
And, so,
He didn't look like he was ready to go last time I saw him.
he didn't or did?
Didn't.
No, I thought he was doing pretty well, but it was kind of a shock. And,
What, you know what he died from? What, just,
not for sure. I know he had some heart issues at times or something.
He was out on the tractor 2 days
He was
before.
89 years old and,
And found him asleep in his
Sure.
chair.
Oh.
He was combining or harvesting something 2 days before. That's what she told me.
That's the way I wanna go.
So we didn't have any actions before the board. We were gonna just review the safety training stuff that we had. And we're gonna talk about the solar law, but we did not do that.
Yeah, but you've still got it on the agenda.
It's still on our agenda to
Okay.
do that, yes.
Good.
But
Solar law?
solar?
The last time I was there, I thought the consensus was didn't need one.
That's what's the consensus, but
Changing
I-
the,
Well,
I
it still
think-
hasn't come to the town board.
No, I think, my thoughts on that, and when the planning board didn't want to regulate anything, basically.
It'll come back to haunt us.
And I think, I don't know that we need a separate solar law. I think including an amendment to the site plan approval law would be an appropriate way to
Yeah, that's
cover
what you
that.
had
It
said.
could just be a section in there.
What about
my s-
decommissioning?
Hmm?
What about decommissioning?
That could be put in there too.
In the site
In the
law?
site, in
Oh,
the,
okay.
the site plan,
Yes.
and
That's gonna come back to haunt
Yeah.
some town board.
I will, I'm, regulation's a dirty word around here unless you don't want something.
Right,
Yeah, I'd say decommissioning,
right.
you know, I remember
So-
that, you know.
I was trying to explain to the board members that some form of regulation is probably good. Maybe, you know, the one big sticker was they didn't want to see a 50-foot setback requirement for solar panels from property lines or roadways. And I think it's a pretty good setback because of safety issues. The comment was that, well, we have a lot of buildings and barns that are right up next to the road, so why are we worried about it? Is that the best way to do things? I don't think so.
did you say 50 feet from the road and the property line?
Yeah,
It seems like a long way from the property line.
well,
Why couldn't you put it right up against the edge of your property, pretty close to it?
ask your neighbor.
Somebody's house might be 15 feet from their property
I
line,
mean,
which means
right now, we have no yard regulations in the town.
If I put one on the edge of my property line and people that farm the land would inadvertently, and probably not mean to, but it could easily damage the panels.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, the,
And that was pointed out to me by someone who had to consult with us.
a 50-foot setback from the road frontage is a good idea
Yeah.
because visual issues
Yeah.
with highway safety. Most, I want to say the Z word, most towns that regulate lots and building coverages have a minimum side yard setback of between 25 and 50 feet for principal buildings, and for small sheds and things, maybe a 5 to 10 foot setback. Because if you put a 40-foot tall building 2 feet away from a property line and it happens to be shading the neighbor, there's an impact there. Or,
Well, not only that, but you can't lean a ladder up against it without putting it on the
Right.
neighbor's property.
right. So, anyhow, we're gonna, I'm drafting some ideas that how to modify the site plan review law and include a paragraph about, or a section about solar, I think is an appropriate place to.
Well, I thought about that meeting where folks were saying they didn't need any regulations on solar panels, and I was driving I was riding my motorcycle out on the Serene Road, and there's a solar
That's
panel
the
out there.
Serine Road.
That one.
Hold your hand out.
Somebody put a solar panel up, and it just had like a little 2x4 frame behind it, and it was right on the ground, and it did.
That's Serine Road?
Yeah. Well, it was past the Blueberry Patch. Keep going west, and I think it was still the same road.
Yes, it is the same.
Self-installation.
Yeah, it was resting right on the
Hey, town
ground
of
with
Hector.
a 2x4
All right,
frame.
town
and
of
Hector.
it's like, it looked a little
Land
sketchy.
of-
And, it's like,
Land of, oh, that's pretty high class road these days.
Would you be including like decommissioning and including in that?
I that was in the solar draft that we had, we were looking at it and said, why do we have to worry about decommissioning? We don't make people tear a house down if it's abandoned.
Not, not.
You know,
How many of those do we have?
there's a lot of abandoned houses and barns out there that we
Yeah.
don't require tearing them down.
Right,
So they say, well, why should we make people tear down a solar panel when it stops working?
Which is fishing
Oh,
halfway, and they
that's-
tie that flying those
yeah.
out.
I mean, if that's the way we wanna go, that's fine. I don't know that it's, if there's a life safety issue for a building, you know, Alan does have building code
Yes.
sections to evaluate. but,
well, and it's the New York State Property Maintenance
Yeah.
Code.
I mean, look at Babcock's hatchery up there. It turned into a pig farm.
I,
Turned into an abandoned
I have
warehousing. And they are
looked at
using some
that.
of the buildings, so. But that's all examples of,
Building takes up a relatively small footprint, but, you know, a solar farm takes up it's fairly large footprint.
it could be 10, 20 acres. I'm building two right now. One's 10 acres and one's 24 acres, so.
Yeah.
So can I tell a little Calvin story just because he's not with us anymore?
I didn't, I'm sorry, I would have had a
Just,
moment of
I'll
silence.
just be a minute is all.
Yeah.
And I feel him up there just saying, tell him that story. So I'm gonna say, it. When I first came on the planning board, Calvin had been there for who knows how many decades. He'd already been on the planning board. And I just, you know, after a while, when he said no to this and no to that and no to the other thing, I just had to ask him why it was he'd spent so many years on the planning board. And he said to me, to make sure that this planning board does nothing at all in terms of regulations, rules, laws,
Yes.
just so that we're completely ineffective. And I'll stay on here as long as I can live to make sure that this planning board never does anything.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, that's pretty dedicated service. I thought that was pretty good.
He stayed on as long as he lived.
Yeah,
He
he
did,
did.
yeah.
He did. So,
Yeah.
no, we've lost a lot of history.
Yeah.
He had some great jokes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Lots of stories.
repeatable jokes.
yeah, so we will miss him. But we do have a vacancy on the planning board now, so
Okay.
we'll have to look at the process.
Can we put that on next month's agenda?
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Thank you. Recreational Partnership representative is not here. Enfield Community Council representative's not here. Did the fire department send a written report?
Mm-hmm. Total calls for August are 24. EMS calls 12, MVAs 3, service calls 4, 1 structure fire and 1 computer fire. Mutual aid was given 3 times, 2 to Trumansburg and 1 to Newfield.
Computer fire? It's like a
That's what it says.
laptop?
It doesn't state, just computer.
Alan isn't here to fill us in.
I had one of those phones for 2 days.
Oh, those with the battery?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I don't think I'll be charging this again. I'm glad that wasn't me on the list.
Yeah.
Mike, anything on facilities manager? I put the building assessment later.
Yeah, I think you've been doing all the painting and the norm stuff. So
Yeah, I
that's-
did.
That's more your,
I think it looks good. I think I noticed an improvement.
yeah, looks good.
And they were certainly very neat and tidy. And I did not attend the last Council of Governments meeting. So I was out of town. So we're now on to old business. Anything about the building assessment of the highway garage?
I've been to Lansing's Highway Department and Danby's Highway Department, and just to look at what the issues are in terms of moisture and heating and mostly moisture, but moisture in relation to air infiltration and heating and wall structures and stuff. I didn't get a lot more information yet, and I haven't gotten the plans. I'm hoping to get the plans for the Danby one. Somebody's going to inform from me. But I don't really have a report to give yet, so.
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
Wait till next month on that.
Okay. I put this road protection law on here, and we're back to, or we haven't moved past the question of what do we want to do. I do think at this moment, in your packet, I have some more information that I gave to you. I've discussed this a bit with Guy Crow, and he says the first step is for the town to decide what they want a town road protection law to do. And we haven't gotten there yet.
Is that something that Buddy would be able to give us input on in terms of his take on it?
Yes?
Can we ask Buddy if he would be willing to do that?
We started it about when Roy Barrier was here. We got one started.
Right.
I didn't have a chance to look it up. Dan
I've
was
gotten
involved in it
questions
too.
Right.
And what it is it's really piggybacking off of the county law. We just had to change change numbers on it.
Right.
For industrial or projects that we're gonna have, like the wind farm, so much truckage, so much tonnage and stuff, it would kick in that they would have to get a permit to run the roads and come into the same agreement that the wind farm is talking about.
Does this make sense that we would, that the lawyer would ask us what it is we want to do, and we would ask you to be more detailed about that? Does that make sense to you, for us to do that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to do the law and stuff, and what we were working on is the tonnage, how much weight they would be trucking, how many trips a day.
Which roads?
Correct,
Yeah.
and that's one reason why the signs budget got put up because Roy had me figure out how much it would cost us to sign the roads for weight limits and stuff.
Have you done all that already, what you just said? The tonnage and which roads and the,
I'm not sure where we were on.
Yeah, we're talking about, for the class of roads that most of our town roads are, they're fairly low-strength roads. And, you know, you wanna try to, like, the county's threshold was 30 tons, 1,000 trips of a 30-ton vehicle. That is pretty extreme, but that's for county roads because they're built heavier.
Right.
For municipalities' roads, and I did a study on this out actually in Caroline. And, you know, typically what your average annual loading on a typical town road is like, it's 15-ton vehicles and, you know, 30 or 40 trips a week or a
Right.
day, depending on the road. If you exceed that, that's when you're gonna start breaking the road up. So we were looking at, I think, a 20-ton limit and like 250 to 500 trips. It depends on the class of road. And where this really is only important is if you have a project that's gonna be on a road that can't take it.
Right.
Because all the town roads should be posted probably for 20 tons anyhow, based on the characteristic of the road.
But you don't need a law for that.
10? You wanna go to 10?
5.
5, okay.
Dryden's all 5.
5, yeah, that's
Go
right.
there, town of Dryden, all their roads, and their blacktop roads even and stuff.
Yep.
So
So-
we were discussing 5 to 8.
I guess we were, that was, yeah.
And we do have 8-ton posted roads now,
Yep.
a few of them.
And that keeps the through traffic off the road.
right.
You can't, you still have to enforce it,
But there's
at
a
least-
basis to enforce it.
How would,
Already.
if I were to ask you too, though, how would you suggest we go about getting this written in place so that I mean, for me, as a board member, I don't have a clue.
I have a draft law
We have
already put
it.
together.
Okay.
And we can bring it here and talk about it. Then Guy will make it 3 times as long and then we can cut it back.
Well, so any reason not to start the process though?
No, we can start the process anytime you want.
Okay, what do you think, Ann? Should we start going in that direction or not?
Yeah, yeah, but I do think that Guy's point was good. We have to know what we want it to do.
Well, it sounds
To
like these
protect
guys
our
have
roads.
been doing
Protect
that.
the roads.
Well, I
mean,
think
we
it
have-
has to-
looks- You have to look at the land use and the potential for larger scale projects. And it can be agriculture, but agriculture is protected in the ag zones.
Yeah, which I believe
Well,
the whole
and-
town of Enfield is.
And all your deliveries and stuff,
Right.
that they can only run the roads that they're working on or delivering on.
Right.
They
Right,
cannot use them for through roads
roads.
if they're posted.
right.
So-
And that's
And that's what the highway superintendent wants.
right.
Is that my understanding?
Correct.
Well,
So
the town
do the-
highway
does
map
the-
identifies the different roads and the strengths and what he's got that organized
And
and,
then there'll be permits that they can get a permit to run that road at a certain time. And then there'll be, which I can deny them now in the spring if they're soft and stuff, I
Right.
can temporary post them.
and it's in, like agriculture, logging operations and things like that. Those are all things that were issues in other towns too.
Well, so that would be a starting point.
Right.
Anyways, if you could bring that to the board, then we can start from there
Yep.
and go. So,
Well, Guy's already, also done a
He's got
I think
preliminary
he-
one.
laws.
Yeah.
I don't know how
think
many
he
years
helped us
ago.
on that, though.
Yeah,
I
he-
think we run it through him.
We talked, Guy was involved in Caroline too, so
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
I did the technical side of it and he was doing.
in Caroline,
Yeah.
you did the technical side.
Yeah.
So his draft already has seen your technical side.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
what I did was they had 3 classifications of road types, 1, 2, and 3.
2 and 3.
Really, unpaved, sort of paved, and paved.
Oh, okay.
okay.
And in your packet, I put a copy of choosing between road use agreement and road use regulation. And this is from back in Roy's day.
So we can read that and
And-
have it.
Yeah.
The road use regulation basically sets it up so you would have a road use agreement, or permit to use the road,
Permit.
basically.
So we'll read that and have the information
Well, you'd be a little more knowledgeable,
right,
probably.
for next month.
Yeah.
And that, is that something that you would be ready to bring to next month's meeting, or should we be longer?
I think I can get it next month.
Okay.
Well, you have it on your computer,
I
don't you?
have a lot of stuff on my.
Well, yes, I understand that. I understand
Yeah,
that.
Okay.
I have it, I just gotta go dig out the,
Okay.
I think I have it on my computer.
Finding it, I know that's a
It's,
separate.
well, it died and then I got a new hard
Oh,
drive. and
there's
partitioned
that
it
on
differently,
top.
so-
Oh, my.
Well, if you can bring it to next month, great,
Yeah,
we'll
we'll-
start
we'll
with it,
have
and
it,
if you
we'll
can't,
have it.
we'll wait another month, that's fine.
And my caregiver turns into a pumpkin.
Okay, and the final action item, I make the following motion. Whereas a public hearing was held on September 14th, 2016 to hear comments from the public regarding proposed local law number, what are you gonna give it, Alice?
No.
You still want it blank?
Yeah, I guess until it's passed, yeah.
Okay, entitled Procedures for Public Access to Records in the Town of Enfield under the Freedom of Information Law, and whereas the Town of Enfield adopted a resolution regarding the uniform rules relating to the administration of public access to public records on June 12, 2002, and whereas the State of New York has made several changes and additions to the Freedom of Information Law in the intervening years, including the application of strict rules pertaining to FOIL responses, such as very changing archive rules for FOIL demands and responses, the town board opts to update its FOIL procedures to bring them up to 2016 standards as recommended by the Committee on Open Government. And whereas the town clerk and the deputy town clerk have met with the town attorney, Guy Crow, regarding this local law, and whereas a draft of local law blank 2016 has been on file with the town clerk for public review and has been provided to town board members for review and discussion, and whereas this proposed law would be a type 2 seeker and not require the preparation of an EAFO, now therefore be it resolved that proposed local law blank entitled Procedures for Public Access to Records of the Town of Enfield under the Freedom of Information Act, as set forth in the draft that has been on file with the town clerk, be enacted and take effect immediately, and the town clerk is directed to file a certified copy with the state. Could I get a second?
Second.
Discussion. I wanted to note that no one cared to speak at the public hearing we held earlier in the evening. Other discussion? I believe there was a comment in public sector, why are we passing this
Right,
law?
from Cliff.
My understanding is that the state wants individuals to, or municipalities to pass a local law. You also can make your local law more restrictive than the state law. And also, there is the ability to charge some costs of FOIL requests. And I'm not sure that you can do that unless you pass a local law. I'm not positive about that. Other discussion? Call the vote.
Councilperson Bryant?
Aye.
Councilperson Carpenter?
Aye.
Councilperson Handstein?
Aye.
Councilperson Miles?
Aye.
Supervisor Ryder?
Aye. We are on to the closing privilege of the floor.
Could I have a second? I forgot something.
Oh,
Before we go
sure.
to that, please. The excess equipment that we sent to the auction, you guys haven't heard, have you been, I didn't think that had been done yet. We got 3,500 out of the old highway pickup, 4,000 out of the old roller, 1,000 out of the old spreader, and I can't really remember, the Blazer brought 2,600 or 2,650. And then plus minus the consignment fees that they charge. So that stuff went.
Did you feel like you got pretty much value?
I was real happy with our stuff,
Good.
especially the pickup. I didn't think it'd bring that much.
Who's typically buying that? Is it like contractors
Just,
or?
I don't know. It was at Empire Farm auctions there, so.
Not a lot of used pickups out there these days.
And that had the plow on it too, so
That-
that's with the plow. But the roller, I thought was a real good price on that for what that was.
Yeah.
How much did the truck with the plow go for?
3,500 with 144,000 and not much body left on it.
Well, if just using it for a driveway, then that's would be perfect.
Okay, sorry.
Virginia is excused,
I'm sorry.
family obligations.
Good night.
Thank you for that report, buddy. We'll now move on to privilege of the floor. I'll do it by hands. Jude Lemke.
Jude Lemke, 215 Connecticut Hill Road. So, just looking in connection with something that Mike said earlier, if you look at Article 3, Section 1, A2, of the permit application requirements, there's a requirement in our permit application that the wind farm provide the name, address, telephone number of any property owner of a proposed wind energy facility. That would include the substation. If that owner is not the applicant, then the application needs to include some sort of written permission from the property owner that confirms that they're familiar with the application and that authorizes the submission of the application, or an easement, lease, or agreement relative to the siting of that wind energy facility. So in that regard, if you look at the July 2015 resolution, which approved the change to the 2.3 megawatt turbines, they very specifically in the documentation they provided said that they were not moving any turbines. But in order to put in 2.3 megawatt turbines, they would have to move the turbine on Donnie Gunning's property. They would have to move the turbine on Doug Everhart's property, my property. And we know from an earlier comment that substation has to be moved because Teeter won't allow it. So in looking at what's been submitted, there's no full copy of Rich Teeter's contract in the application that I can find, and does not appear that they've submitted any of the leases that have been entered into after 2009. But if the town did have those, they would see that that this project no longer complies with the application requirements, because there is nothing in the Teeter contract that permits them to build the substation where they want to build the substation. And in Donnie Gunning's property lease, it's very clear that they cannot move the turbine from where it's designated, and therefore they would not meet the setback. So they haven't complied with this section.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Spiro.
I guess first I wanted to quickly thank you folks for tabling things for a month to give the public a chance to really look over all those plans. That was respectful of all people and all their concerns to do that, and you know, it really needs to be looked at carefully whether it is still the old plan or the a different plan, and I wonder what you do about it if they're saying it's the old plan and it's not. So then what do we do? So I don't know the answer to that. So I think that needs to be really carefully looked at, whether it really is going back to the old plan or not. And then the second comment I have is about the consent agenda. I guess this is a new thing that does seem to help speed up the meetings and all the different things, but there's nowhere that I know that the public can see what's in the consent agenda before we come here. So if there's something we would like pulled out and discussed, that we could contact a board member and say, do you think you could pull that out and discuss it? It seems like that should be somewhere on the website or posted with the agenda, what things are going to be in the consent agenda, because we're kind of sitting here going, I don't know what they're talking about. So.
Well, let's take this for example, the agenda tonight.
Yeah. But.
What's not, what weren't you able to see?
What were the budget amendments? What were the claims? What were the, what was in the financial report? Because if some of it needs more, you know, it seems like there should be some way to know what you folks are talking about. Because when you're sitting here as a member of the public, it's like, wait a minute, what are they talking about? You know, like there was some discussion of a charge of Black Oak, 13,000. Yeah, some more money, but if somebody hadn't like said something, I mean, we wouldn't know what it was about. Does that make sense? I mean, it's like we're sitting here during that part going, I don't know what they're talking about, and it just feels like as a member of the public, then we're suddenly in the dark about that part. So I do appreciate that it speeds up the meeting.
Well,
but-
I still don't have an answer from you on what you wasn't out in public.
Well, I don't know, because I didn't know, I didn't understand what you were talking about. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Am I making sense?
So
Does it
publish
clear that
what's-
he's referring to the consent agenda?
Yeah, the consent
Which
agenda.
included 3 items. and it
3
included
items.
The
Four.
minutes, the budget
4 items.
amendments.
Right.
Well,
4 items.
budget
But so the
amendment.
minutes
Budget
are, they're, I guess they're
Oh, and the
online.
financial report.
They're
But
online.
the budget amendments, where are they online?
They were presented, I didn't get one made until, I didn't get either of them made until 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And I got the final one done at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Right.
I assume that the clerk put them out there.
They're on the table for.
I
yeah,
assume.
So
over
there's-
there. But they're
okay.
for everybody to share, but they are on the table.
But it's pretty hard when you have this many people.
I know.
Right, so we can't, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just. what
Audit
I'm saying is-
claims, since I have attended a board meeting, the public never sees them. I have never changed that procedure.
Yeah, but see, but
Time
you used to-
immortal.
No,
We used to-
I'm not accusing you of something, really. I'm not
Well, I'm
accusing you of
trying to
something. I'm just
clarify
trying
that I try as hard as possible to make it over there on that table. Now,
Right.
I try to keep the 24-hour rule.
Right.
I didn't get the information to make the amendment until yesterday at 5 o'clock, and
Maybe I'm confused, but it used to be you discuss, sit there and go back and forth about there's these budget amendments, this one, this one, this one, this one. And so we'd at least hear, we'd understand what you were talking about when
You're
we
right.
were sitting in the audience.
That's
well,
true.
see, I don't think that ever was done, but.
No, we
Oh,
did
yeah.
talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
those.
Yeah, and that.
Well, they were presented individually.
Right, exactly.
We saw-
That's exactly what I'm saying. So then when you're sitting here, you understand what you're talking
Well,
about. Whereas-
this was approved as a board procedure at the organizational meeting in January.
Yeah,
That's what will happen until this January if I get a lot of, pushback. I'll go back to the old way.
well, all I'm
Same
suggesting.
amount of paperwork for me.
So all I'm suggesting is somehow refining it so that we can understand what you're talking about when we're sitting here.
Do you mind if I speak to that
Okay.
with Nancy?
I'm all ears.
There are different kinds of things that are different kinds of information, and, you know, if I put myself in your position and think about what it is I'd like to see, actually, in many cases, I'd like to see all of those things. The audit claims, what that means is that that's money that the town is spending to pay bills or whatever it might be, money that we owe to somebody. If I were really concerned about the taxes I was paying in the town and wanted to look into it and stuff, well, I'd probably do what I did, which was sign up to be on the board. But if I wasn't on the board and I was sitting over there and was really concerned, this is where the rubber meets the road. Really, this is the money that goes out.
Right.
So, but the procedure is kind of iffy. I know that there's an open meetings law and an open information law where we're supposed to provide this kind of information for people to be available. It's a little bit unwieldy to think of how we would provide all of these, you know, there might be 40, 50, 60 checks made every month. How we would provide availability to the information that's in there. I mean, it's just a matter of, here's the invoice and here's the check number and like
Right.
that. So,
Well, you don't know the check number yet.
yes, so there's some information that would be really helpful, and it sounds like it's really a process that we haven't thought about, we don't really have a way to do very well, we don't really have a handle on it. If you have some thoughts and ideas, I would definitely be open to hearing
Yeah,
what you do.
I just don't remember in the past before this year, sitting here going, I don't know what they're discussing, I don't know what, and
Yeah.
then during this, I'm like, oh.
Well, and they're definitely, with the audit claims, they're definitely, I mean, they're
Right.
kind of, they're sprung on us too, and we
Right.
just have to sit here and look through them and say,
Right.
what's that about? You know, why did we spend $47,000 on this or that or the other? And if it strikes a funny note, then we can ask Buddy or ask somebody, whoever spent the money, and say,
Yeah.
tell me
Yeah.
about it. And,
Yeah, and I
you know,
don't
but-
need all that
but,
minutia.
yeah, well, and you don't really have the option to do that, really.
Right.
So, I mean, it's
Right.
kind of a,
And you used to tell what the total was, at least for the general fund.
when we
and
read
the
it, we did
highway
read the total, you're right, yeah, that's true.
Right.
You did have the total.
Yeah, I'm
You
just
never
more
did
raising
nothing
the,
else.
We did sacrifice a bit of, going, time spent in the meetings on some of this non-controversial items
Right,
for greater efficiency.
right.
But any of us can look at the consent agenda on the board and say, well, we really want to talk about that, pull that out.
Right.
But let me ask a quick question. Anne, do you feel like it would be against procedure that if at some point, like after the meetings, if I just stayed with some of this information and was willing to share it with people and
It's all in
get
the
it back to-
supervisor's report that's out on the web.
Well, not the specific audit claims, that's all.
In a summary.
Is that?
If it's not on the web, no.
Yeah.
No.
And do you feel
I
like
doubt
that
it.
would be not against procedure? I mean.
No, you could take a look right
Yeah.
after the meeting at everything there, it would be
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
I mean, that's all foilable stuff, but
Yeah.
there's a cost to generating it for the
Yeah,
public.
no, I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's a totally bad idea, I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if there's some tweaking of it,
Yeah,
a little more transparency.
I'm trying to find a
of
way
what's
to
going on.
balance it off and say, well, we're gonna do it this way to make it easier for us, but also then try and make it available
Right.
to you as well, so. If you have any thoughts on it, you know,
Okay.
I'd be really happy to think about it and talk to you about it.
So, for one thing, the clerk could make 5 copies for the public?
The public, only one copy, that's on the back table.
Well, but what I'm hearing now is that's not very public friendly. I
That's
know
true.
that's the law.
That's true, that's all we have as of now until I'm told differently. I'm told to make
Yeah.
one copy and there it is, so if we need to make, I can do whatever I'm told.
You know, it's a work in process. I just wanted to.
All right.
And Sue does put things on when she gets them onto the, the board documents. If she gets them before the meeting, they go up on the website. But she has to have them.
Well, let's keep talking about
do
it
it.
and see. And
So you're gonna keep it at 1 copy? Okay.
Well, if it's in the email, if it's on the website,
Right, if Sue gets it,
Yeah.
the day before, she can put it up and then it's there for the public
that
to
really,
see.
to me, that really makes a difference.
Right.
Right,
I went onto
yes.
the website and looked for all
And
sorts
then
of
it's my
stuff.
fault if I don't look on the website.
Well, but then it's here, you can look when you come in, yeah.
Right.
Mimi?
Maybe my happy, Enfield Center. Thank you for taking the time to look at this stuff more closely. I do feel there's some really, really, really important stuff in here. And I also applaud Miles's thoughts about not adding more costs to the town until we get paid. I really don't like the idea, maybe we'll pay you if you move forward. I really think we should be saying, maybe we'll move forward if you don't, is the direction I would like to go. And I would like to, in all seriousness, encourage the board to not incur any more expenses for the wind farm until they're paid up in full. And in terms of the process for looking at some of this stuff, because there are a lot of questions, I think, about this stuff. Possibly, we could use the Wind Farm Advisory Committee meeting and open it up to the public to be able to come and kind of question, like, I don't know, just like a round table, like a brainstorming, like, what issues in here do you think are good or problematic or whatever else? Because maybe that would be a good use of that meeting that we have already set up.
We only incur minor costs.
Huh?
We only incur minor costs.
You're getting paid?
Sue gets paid.
Well, Sue gets paid.
Sue does
The
get
rest of
paid,
us
but
don't.
we were having a meeting anyway, so. And again, thank you for taking the time that I think it deserves.
Yes.
Carol Woods, 245 Black Oak Road. I'd like to ask if there's a particular reason why private meetings are scheduled during the public meeting?
Under state law, deliberative boards are able to exclude the public from conversations about certain things with certain people.
But why is it scheduled during a public meeting? Can it be scheduled at some other time?
I don't think
That's
it
not
can.
the common practice. That's not the common practice.
I don't think we can because because in order for all of us to gather together, it has to be a public meeting.
Public meeting. And we can only exclude ourselves for certain precise reasons to have a private discussion. And then all actions have to be taken public, have to be done in public. Often, there is a private meeting to get advice. Usually, personnel matters is one, potential litigation is one, and there's a third. But then we did this under public officers law. So the board can receive usually advice from a lawyer, usually. But all actions are done in public.
So you come out of the meeting
And
with
often
the
there's a vote.
discussion and then have to
Often
vote on
there's a
what we're
motion
gonna
and a
do.
vote.
I just wondered if it was standard operating procedure, because it seems, I haven't been to that many meetings, but, twice I've been here that has happened, and I just thought it was kind of strange that we're all sitting out here doing nothing, waiting for your meeting to get over, and I wondered if it couldn't be scheduled at some
Seems
other
kind of
time.
rude, doesn't it?
What's that?
It seems kind of rude.
Yes,
Yeah.
And we have,
yeah,
we
and a
have,
waste of our time.
Yeah.
yeah, and we have a lot of questions and we take a lot of time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and actually those are the only two that, since I've been on the board, that we've had.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you were here
Well-
for both of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes closed session or executive session is done at the end of the meeting. But Mr. Pavia comes from Rochester, and I do not think that it is responsible to have him come down, but we want to wait until 11 o'clock to talk to you. I just have a real problem with
I
it.
think the information he had was very relevant too, that it was better for us to have it at the start of the meeting.
Well, yes, that's true too.
Well, if you say it's necessary, I'll take your word for it, but I just didn't really know what it was all about and why it couldn't be
And,
scheduled some other time.
We have not had an executive session since April. And prior to that, I'm not sure when the last executive session was. Many months before that.
We'll
It is
try
not.
not to tell stories while we're in there anymore.
Yeah, thanks.
Probably
Appreciate
before
that.
November last year.
Good question. Tammy Ailing.
I was just wondering, we were talking about the road use agreement, what does that do to existing companies that have trucks on the roads, places that have things delivered? Would that make them exempt? Cause I know like I'm just asking because like on my road, I know we have that, well, the stone, they bring the tractor trailer load with stone. So I was just wondering how does that work if you make a law, but yet you have existing people get things delivered, they have to get to the places, so how does that work?
It falls under local delivery.
Or does it, okay, I was just like
As
if I
long
got
as they're
stone-
delivering on that, you know, where there's no crossroads or anything,
Right.
they can be on it. But if you can go around, you gotta go over here and you can go around on the county or state road, then that's what you should be using.
So it'd be like if I got stone delivered, the same thing, it'd be a one-time use or whatever, it would be
Yeah, that's-
exempt.
Delivery.
Local delivery.
Local
But they can't drive from 327 over to Trumbull's Corner.
Right.
That's what they can't do, through
So-
traffic.
What does that do for existing companies though, that have trucks on the road, like you got, and they're continual, like your garbage companies, you got,
That's the same thing,
Same thing,
local
exempt.
pickup, local delivery, your gas trucks, oil trucks. It's the same thing, local delivery,
I was just wondering how that
they'll
works.
pick up. And any businesses that are already on the road, that's grandfathered in.
And the same with the bridges, they don't have any limits, we don't have any limits on our bridges?
As of right now, no. We
That's-
had one on Enfield Center and we We upgraded that, 5 years ago, and we rebuilt it with the county.
Is it still called a bridge?
Enfield Center Road, yes.
It's still called a bridge? Oh. Other,
Joseph Stuff, 7:30.
thank you.
I just wanted to repeat hers. Thank you for the wisdom that you showed today. It's finding the truth and information is great wisdom. The other thing I had is just a curiosity. I hate wasting time asking, but with the elections coming up, I was just curious what you do. Do you do swear the oath like the president does on his?
There's a written piece of paper that, well, first of all, the person who is elected gets a certificate from the Board of Elections that they've been duly elected. And somehow the town clerk has that information, or the person brings it to her. And the duly elected person signs an oath of office that's filed in the town clerk's office.
Okay, that's the only thing I found online relating to small towns, so, okay, that's all. I was just curious if you did anything like the president does. Okay.
I don't think we do anything like the president does.
And even if you're not duly elected and you're appointed, you still have to take the oath of office.
Well, you still have to sign the oath of office, if you're appointed, yes.
Yeah.
Including planning board members, huh? Yes. And then that, oath of office is, the blank must be available online.
Okay.
And the filled in ones are on file at the town clerk's office.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments, privilege of the floor?
Teresa has one.
Teresa.
Oh, Teresa.
Teresa, 738 Black Oak Road. I'm pretty exhausted, so I can't imagine how you guys are, so I thank you for all your time tonight and staying so late to go over all this. We really appreciate it. I guess I'm a little confused on everything, and maybe it'll get figured out as we go. So the old plan is what they're going with then, I take it, and then I didn't get a chance to ask them, so I'm not 100%. Carpenter kept asking her about a letter, and she said that she was gonna say that there was no changes, that all the turbines and substation was in the same exact spots.
I'm confused about that myself.
I'm confused by all of it, and I'm just not exactly sure where it's all going from there. I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't want to interrupt the meeting. I'm just kind of not sure how the substation's going on us, or how she's planning on doing that is all. I mean, I know you guys can't answer that, but I'm just kind of confused by all of it and not sure where everything's going from here.
Tune in next week? I don't know.
Yeah, my son's getting pretty unhappy with me not putting him to bed.
Yeah. I mean, I understand. I don't blame him. I don't know. I think we all.
I was just baffled when I heard her say that, because it was all new information to me, so.
I think we got a lot of sorting to do in the next few months. So.
This is all new information that we've learned in the last few days. So.
Marcus?
Marcus Gingrich, 101 Rumsey Hill Road. I want to kind of reiterate some of the things that were said. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time and dealing with this thoughtfully. The words in some of these agreements, I don't know whether to believe them or not until you actually read them. You don't know for sure what's actually in there. As an example, I mean, we know that they've not been straightforward all along. One of the pieces of information that keeps coming up, and I don't think any of you are confused by it, but Lester said, we've reduced this wind farm in order to make it better for the neighborhood. let me just read something from the final finding statement last time. The initial 20 turbine layout was generated based almost solely on maximizing the wind generation and energy output, or wind resource optimization, and served as a starting point for desktop and on-site evaluation of environmental impacts. There, it goes on to a little more, but let me jump to the end of the next paragraph. In the case of the 20 turbine layout, it was determined that the turbines were spaced too close. Therefore, modifications to the array design were necessary to minimize the power loss due to increased wake effect and turbulence, as well as turbulence-induced component wear. Nothing about the community. Another, a little farther down, it was reduced again. Additionally, the 7 turbine layout reduces other land disturbance anyway, talk about going to the 20 and 13. However, after further environmental review, specifically to impacts relating to noise and additional wind resource optimization, it was determined that further reduction, below 7, of the number of turbines was needed. But then the next paragraph says, going below 7 is economically not feasible. So this whole thing of, oh, we're doing it for the community, I don't buy that. Now, I'm gonna jump to another thing. This whole thing of where is the whole wind farm going? There's no clarity. The July 16th meeting says, we're gonna, like Jude pointed out, we're going to stick with the same footprint. No turbines are moving. They can't. It violates the wind law. Oh wait, it doesn't matter. They don't usually follow the wind law anyway. Our wind law says that they can't start construction. Did they? According to their own documentation, they already completed an access road. They excavated a Met tower by their own admission. They excavated the foundation of wind turbine 4. And I don't know if you know this, there's also excavation at wind turbine 5. That's in the, what, withdrawn EIS? It's very clear in the pictures. There's excavation been done there. They violated town law, I don't know, secret law, DEC. It also says in the final finding statement, prior to beginning construction, the project owner will submit a notice of intent in conformance with the current SPDES regulations and obtain authorization to commence construction activities from the New York State DEC Bureau of Water Permits in Albany. Did they do that?
They haven't gotten, they're not in the permitting process yet.
Did they do that before they started construction or excavation?
Well, okay, your contention is they've started construction.
They said they did. They have admitted to it.
It's in their private placement memorandum, they said they started construction.
If you look in the now withdrawn EIS, draft supplemental EIS, whatever it is, in the photos, you look at the aerial view where turbine 5 is going, where turbine 4 is going, you can clearly see excavation. If you compare that to Google Earth views from several years ago, it's all forestry.
Well,
Why is that happening?
one thing just explain, there's no regulation in the town or the state that prevents them from doing clearing operations or excavations under an acre in area.
That's if it's for an individual on their own property, but for a larger project, can a company do that?
Well, if they're calling it exploratory work, they can. And
No, according to the DEC, they cannot.
well, I don't think they exceeded any DEC limitations when they did that. Now, doing that,
Actually, I'm pretty sure they did.
is it more than an acre
Yes,
Yes.
on a particular parcel?
yes.
No, not on a particular
Yeah,
parcel,
Yes,
but
even on turbine 4, if you do the math, it's more than an acre.
they're,
It doesn't matter.
They're
No, no.
disingenuous if they are doing things like that, but there are certain things that are not regulated in this town that they could clear that whole woods if they wanted to tomorrow.
Black Oak could?
Not if it's
No, they
part of
cannot.
a project.
According to the
Well,
DEC, they
how
cannot.
is it a part, maybe they don't have a project, maybe they just are clearing all the firewood off of it.
The
It's almost
DEC's,
part of the seeker.
I know, so, but we don't have any regulations saying they can't do that.
But they already
Our
said
wind
it's
law
part
says
of the
they can't do
project
that.
when they
Wind law.
applied for the tax.
It doesn't say
rebate.
they can't cut trees. They're not supposed to start actual construction beforehand.
So-
So they're stretching it, there's no question of that. But there's no, you can't get an NCON officer out there to arrest them.
I am not aware that that DEC has found a violation of their,
They have,
well, it's
We
not
foiled it.
been reported, they have not told me.
we foiled it. They sent them a cease and desist.
I'm on a hotline with DEC this past
Oh.
10 days. I got the number
There's,
right in my cell phone.
please make sure you guys actually know what the plan is. Which plan are we dealing with? Apparently the,
I believe that was
That was
quite
my-
clearly asked for tonight.
right.
Yes.
and make sure that they actually are doing that part.
And I suspect there'll be further clarifications now that we're in this phase. That there will be further clarifications that we'll probably request. Some confirmations on things specifically. So. Because we hear a lot of things and I don't know what the truths are, but if we get it in writing, if we get that down, then we know.
Well, you're entitled to it under the law.
Yes. But there are
Well,
things on both sides of this, and I don't know what the truth is, but we can ask for confirmation and documentation to support whatever people is being said.
I don't understand what a lawyer's gonna do though.
Well, to start,
Oh, okay.
just,
It gives you something to work with.
Well, they should ask for the leases that they were obligated to supply under Article 3, and then they can look at the leases and see that they can't comply with Donnie and with Peter.
If they're not complying with the law, are we required to keep up this process? Is the town required to do that?
I think the answer to that is maybe, because there's a lot of, one of the things that we were in there talking about was trying to understand what contingencies go if this happens and if that happens or whatever, because it really is a complicated situation. So I don't think there's a real easy answer to that. Or at least without putting the conditions on a larger set of conditions and, what law aren't they complying with, in what way, for what reasons, and you get back around and you say, okay, in this circumstance, we do this, and in that circumstance, we do that. And obviously none of us have the legal expertise to know all of that. And we're trying to get a better understanding of it ourselves to know what to do, so.
in my sense, in order to get a permit, they have to comply with the law. Or we can ask them to make sure that.
Or we can
that there's
just say no
compliance with the law.
permit?
Well, I mean, they're not in violation of the law yet, that we know of, so. But, cross that bridge when we get to it.
Other people who wish to comment? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
That's adjourned.
Oh, announcements. Harvest Festival is October 1st. There's a bright orange sign-up sheet if you'd like to volunteer your time and talents.
And there's chicken barbecue too, right?
Chicken barbecue. And a ping pong drop.
And could I say one quick thing?
And 10 tons of gravel from George Van Balen.
I appreciate Marcus and Mimi and Nancy and everybody else who said thanks for being here, for us to stay on things. I gotta say the same thing back to you guys. You're doing a lot of work. I know that you have a lot invested in this process. At the same time, you're doing a lot of work. A lot of the information that you bring to the meetings is really helpful. So I appreciate what you do as well, just so you know.
Meeting to adjourn?
Yeah, Mike said, seconded it.
Oh, second. Who's opposed? We'll start with the Pledge Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody to this meeting that we'll talk about a lot of changes. Please sign in on the sign-in sheet. If you wish to speak at privilege of the floor, please sign in on that piece of paper. And if you would like to speak at the public hearing on the local law, please sign in on that paper. I assume there's a paper for that. A couple of changes to the agenda. The local law should be blank and it should not say 3. And we are going into a closed session per section 108 of the Public Officers Law, not an executive session. We're going to start with the public hearing on local law of 2016 entitled Procedures for Public Access to Records of the Town of Enfield under the Freedom of Information Law. Would anyone like to speak to this subject matter? Anybody sign this sheet? Yeah. Those that don't know what they're signing. All right.
Yeah, it wasn't too clear.
No.
Okay, once again, public hearing regarding local law entitled Procedures for Public Access to Records of the Town of Enfield under the Freedom of Information Law. Would anyone like to speak to that subject matter?
I have a simple question.
I'll entertain one simple question.
My name's Cliff Newhart, and I'm just wondering why we need this law and how much it costs us in lawyer fees to generate it when the state already has one. That's a simple question.
Oh, well, the purpose of a public hearing is to state your opinion.
Well, I stated my opinion. Why are we generating a law that's already exists within the state?
Duly noted.
And how much does that cost us?
Would the
I'm sure
board
a lawyer
mind
has
if I broke protocol a little and answered to the
I
best
think
of
it'd be
my
great.
ability?
Fine with me.
It is a mandate given by the state that townships and public entities abide by the Freedom of Information Law. This is part of municipal business that the state says we have to conduct. And we have to, it is part of the cost of doing business in the town. Anyone else wish to speak in the public hearing regarding procedures for public access to records of the town of Enfield under the Freedom of Information Law? I deem the public hearing closed. And we will move on to privilege of the floor. Mike, you want to get that sign-in sheet? Yeah, I think you did.
Oh, did I not? There was one that was stitched together.
I suspect that a great many people are going to want to have some statements. So I will conduct this in a very strict process according to our agenda rules. One person can speak once for a maximum of 3 minutes. It is not a question and answer statement. It is an opportunity for the public to make statements to the board. So I have as the first person on privilege of the floor, Rob Tesori.
Not you. My name's Rob Tesori, 570 Black Oak Road. A couple of things. I see that we are going back to the original plan for the wind farm, which puts us back in the whole situation of land infringement, having us pay taxes on property that's virtually unusable, a couple acres. Enfield's going to ask me to keep paying taxes on that, 31% this year. And I will, but I'd still like an answer sooner or later here. Sooner would be better, about what we can do about this, so I can use my property. Aside from that, I'm looking through the records and seeing that Black Oak still owes money to the town, and wondering why, if that's the case, why we are going through with voting on anything, any permits right now. Back in 2007, I made a contract with Enfield too to build a barn. And I showed them my plans. They said it looks good. Give us the money, we'll give you a permit. And I'm pretty sure if I said, well, if you let me build a barn, I'll run a business out of it, I'll make a little money, and then I'll pay you. I'm sure Alan probably would have said, no, that's not the way it works. Go away and come back with some money. So, again, why are we gonna vote on anything if everything's not paid up to date yet? And if that is the case, later on, and we're doing business this way, what happens if something gets into trouble after we started construction, or we're operating and it's not working out? I mean, I know, I've heard all about the bonds and insurance. That's great, but what if we end up getting stuck having to pay for this? We're gonna pay another 31% taxes to make up the difference? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn Drake?
Hi, I'm Dawn Drake, 105 Griffin Road. This project has been going on for the last 10 years. The people here tonight are scared and worried and feared some might have to move. This project is being pushed onto us, unsafe, and will have a huge effect onto the community if it goes through. We all know the setbacks are unsafe, and yet here we all are. This project was supposed to bring revenue and be a positive thing for this community. While Black Oak stated that they were out of money, and this project has done nothing but turn neighbors against one another and put fear into the eyes of those living so close to them. This project will have a negative impact on the entire community. It already has. The people living so close to these will either have to move or suffer with all the side effects for the rest of their life. The other residents not living in direct contact with these will be affected long-term too. I ask these people as well as the board members, are you all prepared for a huge spike in your taxes? The house is directly in contact with the turbines. The tax assessor will come out and change their property value, which means lower taxes for them. As a result, the rest of Enfield can eat the difference on top of what they are already paying. This already has been proven in other towns. Once the lawsuits start pouring in, which there will be several, taxes I'm sure will go up yet again to help cover all the pending lawsuits against the town. So how is this project going to be so great for the community? We'll all see it as we devastate all of us.
Thank you. John Carlisle?
Jolie, I'm deferring until the second privilege
Jo-
of the floor.
Okay. Teresa Goulier.
Schooler. I'll try to get through this best I can. Hello, I'm Teresa, 738 Black Oak Road. I moved up here about 10 years ago when I met Rich, when all this began. I'm not going to discuss too much about the entire project, and I know everyone in this room is entitled to their own opinion. My children go to the Enfield school, and they both love the school. I myself came from Kingston, Saugerties area, then Spencer, New York, then Enfield. I always planned on settling down in this small town and enjoy the community. I've started helping Gene Owens with the food bank. Every year we donate to the fall festival, the calendar for the fire department, and so on, and even wanted to join the PTA with the school. I just need to eventually know what is the plan for Enfield. Some people want it and some people don't. I get it, most of you don't know, though. I need to start checking into different schools and towns. I have my own personal reasons for not wanting to live next to these, and I'm entitled to my own opinion. But as a mother, But as a mother, I must protect my kids and try to focus on positive life with my family, whether it's living in Enfield or somewhere else. I can't force you all to do what's right. All I can do is follow my heart and make the best decisions possible for myself and my family. I love this town and would love to see us as a community move past all of this and steer towards a more positive light in Enfield, like an Enfield carnival, or inducing more homes to saving energy ways, or trying to fight ways to recycle more and less out of our landfills. I stand all before you in hopes you will make the right decisions for this town, whether it's this project or another. I just can't do this anymore, so I just need to know what the plan is for me and my family is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Cliff Newhart.
I defer.
Joseph Dawson.
I had a question, but you're not answering questions, so I
No,
defer.
not during this session. Tammy Ailing.
First of all, I'd like to once again thank the board members for working on the wind farm project along with the advisory committee, which I had my first meeting last night, listening to the advisory committee work on what they were doing. This isn't a simple project, as we're all finding out. It has affected the whole community. It has driven some people closer while others miles apart. While thinking of this, I hope that when there's decisions made regarding the wind farm, that each of the board members thinks about how they would feel if they were to live next to them. I've heard a lot of people say, I'm one of those not in your backyard people. You're absolutely correct. I don't want it in my backyard. When people, including myself, buy property, they buy it for their peaceful place. The impact of these structures will ruin all that they have and change their way of life forever. Please think wisely on your choices and decisions that affect who that live in that area and not the investors, as they are the majority that feel this way.
Phil Wright.
Phil Wright, 435 Black Oak Road, up here, right where they're gonna be. I don't know how many of you guys saw the tractor trailers with all the pieces on there. Did you? I was behind one for like an hour, just one. And you expect us to have these in our place, in our homes, on our roads? Not gonna happen. And I got some questions I want to ask later.
Ron Riddle.
Yeah, Ron Riddle, 235 Harvey Hill Road. I just want to state again that I couldn't be more opposed to this. This is, it's really unconscionable how Black Oak has gone about doing this sort of on the sly. And, I got back and it was, one was proposed in my yard, right next to me. So, this is going to affect the entire community. It's an unsafe model. It's a model that's going to be out of date within no time. And we're going to be stuck with these things. And they're monstrous. They are absolutely monstrous. do, do solar panels. If you want to do a whole field of solar panels, I would be so wonderfully into it. But this is it's not safe. It's not meant to be built near people and be operating. It's clear from all the facts that I've read, and there's plenty of them out there, and people aren't making this stuff up. So to anyone who is for this, I say, put it in your yard. If you want to put it in your yard, then great, but don't put it in my yard. I mean, there's tons and tons of laws, one right after the other, that this board gets so tripped up over with Black Oak and with, to me, the only real law that the most important law to me is do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. That is like the greatest law to me. And you're not following that law if you're putting one of these up and, right next to me. And any of these other people as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcus
I assume that's Marcus Gingrich?
Gingrich.
Marcus Gingrich, 101 Rumsey Hill Road. I find it kind of almost amazing we find ourselves in the same situation again. I find out that there's a number of resolutions, a number of documents that are up for action items this evening. They're made available to the public. I got the full list of resolutions at late this afternoon. Do I have time to read through them? No, I don't know whether the board members have had time to read through them or not. But the reality is, if you have not read through them, every word, you don't know really what is in there unless you yourself have prepared it. My question, that obviously I'm not going to get an answer, but I'd be curious to know how many of the board members have actually read all the words in these resolutions. My other question is it was brought up, if Black Oak has not been paying their bills, why are we spending our money to pass resolutions, to have resolutions made up to pass their plans, to pass their documents? That shouldn't be happening. There is absolutely no reason. And back to the whole issue of why do you need to read every word? If the documents just came from Black Oak, you cannot trust them. You cannot trust the words in the document unless you read them, understand them, compare them to previous ones. They have shown time and time again not to be trustworthy. They have gone against, in my opinion, based on what I read, they have gone against numerous laws, seeker, the local wind law, DEC law, or DEC regulations. So I guess my whole point is, I hope the board does what they have been doing, and I really thank you for it, and that is do your due diligence, consider exactly what you are passing, or don't pass it. Don't even vote on it until you know. It's not even fair to the public that the public doesn't know what you're passing until a day or so before. And to that idea, we're passing a FOIL law. Is there any reason that somebody on the board could not initiate a law, a resolution, that such things as this have to be put out in the public eye for consideration a week or two in advance, so that we know what is actually going to be voted on, what is actually going to be discussed? Is that a possibility? I would really like to see the board consider that, just for openness, transparency to the community. Think of the community. You're not here to serve a commercial entity. At least I hope not. You're here to serve as the buffer to protect your residents, to protect all these people here. Thanks.
We'll still be here.
Time. Thank you. Mimi Mahaffey.
Mimi Mahaffey, 115 Black, or Enfield Center Road. On Monday, I got an email that was circulating all over Ithaca through listservs and nonprofits, and it says, "Hello, friends of Black Oak Wind Farm. I know it's been a long time since you heard from me. That's because the Enfield Town Board has been stalling and stalling, now all capital letters, stalling, on every wind farm decision that has come before them. Well, it's time for their stalling to end. They're having a meeting this Wednesday, September 14th, at which the final documents will be reviewed, and we hope voted on and approved by the board, so that the wind farm can finally move forward. These documents contain only minor revisions since the draft versions were approved back in January of 2015. It says it's time for Enfield to stop dragging their feet, step up and do the right thing." Wow, I can't believe the thousands of hours that you guys have put in looking at this, studying this, trying to do the right thing, doing your due diligence, and that's called dragging your feet? This is a big deal. That's not dragging your feet. That's called doing the right thing. So I just want to applaud you for the hard work that you've been doing and ask you to continue to do the right thing by this community.
Thank you. Nancy Spiro.
Mimi basically said.
Identify yourself more
I'm
fully,
Nancy
please.
Spiro, sorry, from 68 North Van Dorn Road, and I just wanted to echo what Mimi said, that I really appreciate the many hours that the board members have been putting in, analyzing what's been going on, thinking about it, making changes, trying to decide what to do, and they are not stalling. Due diligence is very important in something this size and that will affect this many people in this town, and so I just want to say I appreciate that everyone's work. Thank you.
Thank you. John Ranchick.
I'm John Rancich, 363 Hines Road. I am the originator of this project. I brought it to the attention of the town board back in 2002, 2003. I've been working very diligently. I've turned it over to a new group because I couldn't go to any more meetings. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful thing for the town of Enfield. I recently made a trip up to Lowville where they have 195 turbines in the Lowville town, and they're going to put up another 50. The entire community is in favor of it. Lowville has the richest per capita school district in the state. The people in Lowville pay nearly no property taxes, and the entire town is in favor of it and backs it, and it works. Now, it won't work to the extent that it's working in Lowville in terms of dollars, because Lowville will have nearly 250 turbines, and we've cut our project down from 20 down to 7. So the sheer size of the project is much, much smaller, has a much less impact on the neighbors and the community. And there's a lot of people in Enfield that are in favor of it. There is nearly $3 million of local investors, local people, some people from Enfield that have put their money into this project, that are waiting to see it go and have a return. I myself have a considerable amount of money invested. I have not made a dime off of the wind farm. I've only spent money. I think it's a fabulous project. I think when you can make electricity out of a free, renewable energy, the wind, and we have plenty of it, that is an excellent thing for the world, our community, the state, and everybody involved. I just don't see where there's any losers. There's a lot of signs around that say no turbines close to homes. Well, there aren't any turbines close to home. We've complied with all the setback regulations in excess, and we have a good, solidly thought out project. And the board has, to reiterate some other people, the board has put a lot of time in. Not just this board, but previous boards have put lots of time in. And this is a good, solid project. We've done everything that needs to be done, and I urge the board to vote in favor of this.
Thank you, Jim. I ask for decorum here. Earlier speakers were not interrupted. I expect you to continue that. When the speaker is speaking, there is no undercurrent or back talking. Jude Lemke.
Jude Lemke, 215 Connecticut Hill Road. So I reiterate some of the things that others have said. You know, we found out about this at the last minute, but apparently the backers of Black Oak Wind Farm found out about it a lot sooner than we did. So I find that somewhat outrageous that they knew what was happening tonight last week, but we found out what was happening tonight yesterday, and that's doesn't give us enough time to really try and respond or look at anything that's happening. I think that that's a pattern that's been going on throughout this entire process, and I think it's unbelievable that this town board, some members of the town board have taken those kinds of actions. In terms of looking back at the original project, I want to point out that the July 2015 action, in my opinion, is valid. It was premised on the fact that there were only a few changes, but when you go back and look, they can't meet the setbacks that are outlined in the law based on what was passed in July of 2015. And they specifically state, both in the documentation that Black Oak submitted as well as in the town board resolution, that none of the turbines would move, and yet the blades got bigger and there's no way to meet the setback. I would also point out that the substation cannot go on Rich Teeter's land because he will not allow it. And that means that both the substation and collection lines will have to move. I think that the town board should ask for a new EIS to address all of those changes before anything further gets done. Of course, assuming that they pay their bills. I don't think anything should happen until they pay their bills. Furthermore, I think that there has been no final approval of the permit, and I think that the town should continue to look at the conditions that they've been considering in the most recent past. Before any permit is issued, that permit should be conditioned on safety and health of the town members.
Thank you. Is there another sign-in sheet that wants privilege of the floor?
People may have thought they were signing in privilege of the floor.
This
when
is
they
why
signed
I'm
in
asking this question.
For the FOIL meeting.
This is why I'm asking this question.
I don't know,
Alice, I'm gonna put your stuff on the floor.
This one's public hearing. The other one's a sign sheet. Was.
So what do we have here?
Michael brought this over. I don't know if they want to speak or not.
Dawn Drake's already spoken. The story spoken. Julie put it off. Chad Newhart.
Ms. Ryder, I'd like to change my mind if I could, and speak now.
Identify yourself.
Jolie Carlisle.
Jolie Carlisle.
Yeah, I was third on the list originally,
Yes, you were.
and I deferred and I changed my mind, which is a woman's prerogative. I live at 463 Black Oak Road, and my house is one of two houses that are going to be most directly affected by 3 of these wind turbines. Not just one, but 3 of them. 2 of them are directly behind my house to the east, one is to the north. My entire property is going to be in the shadow of these things. I'm not appreciative of how close they are. The closest one is 1,500 feet from my property line. That's close. Granted, these towers are only 480 some odd feet tall, but we don't know how far they're gonna throw things, or snow, ice. The flicker alone is going to drive me crazy in the morning for about 45 minutes a day. I bought this property with my husband 20 years ago, and it was nothing but a vacant field. And we put the house on, we put everything on there that's there. And I truly enjoy living up there on that piece of property.
I do not want to look out my back door and see these 2 wind turbines flickering shadows at me for 45 minutes a day. As far as the way the wind farm has come about doing these things, I gave this story to the planning board, but I didn't give it to the whole town board. 2 days after my husband died, some representative of the wind farm came to my house with their quote, good neighbor agreement and wanted us to sign that, which basically gave away all of our rights to complain about anything ever as long as this wind farm existed for the nice sum of $500. When they were informed that my husband had died 2 days previous, the gentleman asked my son to sign my husband's name and date it prior to my husband's death so that they could get this wind farm agreement signed. I was not happy, and I called Miss Marguerite and I told her that I was not happy about that and how illegal I thought that was. If that's the way they're gonna start out doing business, you can bet that the rest of this project has been run the same way. I am all for alternative methods of creating energy and all that other stuff, but you gotta do it right, and you gotta take into consideration the safety and the health of the people that it's gonna affect. And like I said, I'm not affected by one, I have 3 of them. Thank you.
Chad Earhart. Erica Newhart.
No.
Gabe Newhart. Cliff Newhart.
Go ahead, Cliff.
Marcus has already spoken.
Well, I'll say a few words. I'm a lifelong resident of Enfield, which most of you in this room can't say that. Not too many. Okay.
One speaker is speaking.
And this whole project, since its inception at Ithaca College many years ago with John Ranchett, I was there. And she was there. So I've been here ever since day one, before the town board even got it. And I've been opposed. And to shut ears, if you will. And now I live up on Connecticut Hill, way up there, and I'm getting some bad smells from Enfield Center. Some corrupt smells up there. So take it as you want. That's the way I feel about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly Rollins. Ann Corman.
I just signed in, I thought that was the sign.
All right. Gretchen Herman.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Herman. I'm at 433 Bostwick Road. I want to urge you to support the wind farm. There have been numerous accommodations and much thought. Thank you, the board, and everybody else who's put so much effort into this. And it's time. The renewable energy is necessary, as you can tell, with global warming. We need it for the county, we need it for the state, we need it for the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Woods. I'm sorry. Carol Woods.
I was just signing in.
Okay. Is there any other sheet that might be
We have a third sheet. I think
people
that's
who
the
want to
sign-
speak under privilege of the floor?
I think it's just mainly the sign-in sheet.
Let me glance. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under privilege of the floor? State your name and
My name
address.
is Mark Waterman. I live at 543 Harvey Hill Road. I've seen the impact this has had on people who are like family to me. I am totally against the wind farm. That's all.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak under privilege of the floor? State your name and address.
Hi, my name is Melinda Tesori. I live at 570 Black Oak Road. A board member not too many meetings ago had said that
too many things are being voted in as little pieces instead of as a whole. I just urge that you guys take it, look at it as a whole one more time before you start bidding or voting for little things again. Thank you.
This ends, oh, I'm sorry. State your name and
David Marsh, Harvey Hill Road. I actually am president of Building Trades. We do a lot of wind projects and other projects in Steuben County in particular. Right now we have 2 large windmill farms that are being proposed. EverPower probably will break ground next year on 50 turbines, and Envergy is actually putting forward a proposal to do between 120 and 140 in Steuben County. They are setting up shop in Steuben County because there's already turbines there. There's a familiarity with them, and I'm not going to say everybody's comfortable with them, but there's a lot more comfort level with them. What you're dealing with here is the unknown. I understand that, but I'll let you know that if you know somebody in Steuben County, check with them and see what their experience with wind turbines has been, and decide for yourself. But I hear your concern. As I say, I own property. I have not built there, but I own property, a 7-acre parcel, so they can't put one on my parcel. It's too small. But I own property up there, so I hear some concerns in the past about land value. I don't think that's going to be a problem, but these are all legitimate concerns. So whatever the board decides is prudent, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the privilege of the floor?
Sue Schultz, 637 Black Oak Road. What is the setback law in Steuben County?
They are usually adopting whatever the manufacturer's recommendation is.
But what is that?
Depends on the manufacturer, depends on the size of the turbine, depends on height, etc. So there's a lot of variables, but I can't answer your question honestly. You'd have to talk to some of the town officials out there. I don't know.
Question to answer.
That's true.
He doesn't know. What size are those turbines that are going off in Steuben County?
Well, the technology continues to evolve, and interestingly, as it does, they're getting taller. So they're talking about, I think, to the turbine is about 425 feet, I believe they are. Maybe as much as 450.
Okay, this is privilege of the floor. You're supposed to direct your comments to the board. That's the board policy.
I apologize. It just seemed like he was kind of doing a comparison, and I was just trying to find a
Yes.
comparison here. So.
Later in the meeting, we'll have a different format.
Okay, thank you.
Privilege of the floor is now at an end. I make a motion that we enter into a closed session with the board members and our attorney, Frank Pavia, who is here from Harris Beach near Rochester, New York, per section 108 of the Public Officers Law. Alan, can we kick you out of your office for a while? Thank
You need a second?
Yeah, we do need a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Here you go.
Thank you.
I had a bunch of little tape.
That's great, thanks.